So did you know, like, before all the European explorers got to South America, that syphilis was not a STD that was in the human race? Syphilis only existed in one species, and that was in llamas. And,
is that true?
And it did not exist in the Incas. It was not in the Incas.
So it's like they developed.
When European
developed
explorers came to Brazil and South America and everything, and then went back, suddenly there was a syphilis outbreak in Europe. Beforehand, syphilis
I didn't realize the implications.
Yeah. And syphilis wasn't in the Incas. The Incas never had a problem with syphilis.
Can you imagine?
Well, it could be that they just developed
immunity to it? Yeah. I don't think that's it.
Can you imagine, though, you're just sitting in your country, people you've never seen roll up in boats. They're murdering your people, they're fucking your llamas.
No, I can't put this all on the Spanish and Portuguese, okay? I can't. Because the fucking of livestock has been common throughout history. And I will not align the Portuguese. It is.
You know, there's a reasoning behind that, though.
The fucking of livestock?
Yeah, the penalty for stealing livestock was more severe than fucking livestock.
Well, yeah, because you still got the livestock afterwards.
Yeah, so if you were caught stealing sheep, it would be smarter to pull your pants down. Would it not?
I guess it would be. I mean,
that's why the Welsh have such a bad one, because back then is you got your hand cut off. Yeah. But if you were fucking livestock, you got fined, so...
Well, this is Drunken Dialectics.
Yeah, Drunken Dialectics.
So what are we talking about today, guys? What are we talking about?
Apparently fucking sheep.
Llamas.
I think that's
various wooled creatures. But, I don't know. What are we talking about? What's a good one?
What have we not done? Let's give it a little break between morality, because I've got some more points to bring up to you on that. I'm by no means done with morality, but let's do something a little easier. Let's want to do free speech? Is that really easier though?
That's not easier.
I mean, that one.
I'm sure we all agree anyway.
See, that's what I thought, but Devin's making me worry. He's making me think it's going to be like a knockdown, drag-out thing. I don't know.
No, I think there's some... I think we all agree on the main points.
Okay.
I think it's the finer points where it'll get a little shaky.
I'm confused about what the finer points of free speech are.
Calls for violence against certain groups, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that's fine to have laws against calls to action. Calls to action is different than speech.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we don't disagree.
Well, I don't think you should be able to go say, hey, go kill someone for me. That's a call to action. It's not.
Yeah. But it's what the left determines as a call to action.
Yeah, that's probably where we might. To me, it has to be very explicit. You have to be able to say, very easily trace, like no more than 1 or 2 degrees of separation between the call to action and the action itself. I mean, I think 1 is probably the maximum for me.
I think it's more like the...
You know, if I call to kill someone, they call to kill me too, then whoever lives, lives.
I don't know.
I don't know about that one. No, my thing with that is more of like what exactly do you consider free speech, and how, like, is all freech, we're doing that now.
Freech, brothers.
Is all speech free speech, or is there certain speech that's not free speech?
If it's to me, go ahead.
I've kind of, like, I don't know. I'm not 100% on this, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that in some way everybody has a different definition of what exactly free speech entails.
I'm sure everybody does when it comes to...
you have even, like, really big supposed proponents of free speech who, like, open up like a call of, you can say anything in here, and then somebody says something in there, and they're like, security.
Well, there's a difference between actively disrupting an event that people have paid for.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Yeah, that's different.
You get fucking thrown out for saying the N-word or something, you get thrown out for saying the fucking N-word.
Yeah, that's up to the people who are running that establishment. I'm talking about in public spaces. I can kick you out of my house.
No, if you're
that's
having
what I'm talking about.
Public discussion. Like, if you open your room up to public discussion and you're like, you can say whatever you want to, and the whole point of the thing is free speech, and then somebody's like, 9/11 was an inside job, and you're like, security.
Okay, then yeah, then I'd be like, that's stupid, don't throw them out. But if it's them actively, like, standing up screaming stuff at the audience and at the person speaking, actively trying to disrupt the event. That's not the same. I don't think. I think you are. Well, it's actively disrupting the event. I don't think that's good. It's not in that case. It's not the speech that should be outlawed. It's the action they're taking. It's hard to exactly define it.
Do you think like a venue can control what it should be able to decide what is said within their program? Then?
Yes.
Well, wait. Not if it's a public venue, no.
Yeah.
If it's private, then yes. But it's not what is said to me; it's how it's said. If there's for instance, most of the times I've seen stuff like that. There's a Q&A section afterwards where anybody can go up and say something. Wait till then. Why actively disrupt the event for everybody who came there to attend it to hear what they had to say? You're just making an ass out of yourself, and you're ruining the day for everybody for no good reason. I'm not saying they should go to jail for it. I'm just saying you're kind of an asshole for doing it. And
Yeah, once you start hitting levels like teaching your pug to do Nazi salute and you get arrested kind of shit, then that's where freedom of speech is infringed upon me. The moment the government can start making an arrest based on what you do or what you say.
Well, Scotland's been put like that for a while now.
Besides call to action, at least. Because teaching my fucking pug to do the Nazi salute, the whole entire point of it is so fucking stupid and so bad that it's kind of like a joke and audacity kind of thing. And the fact that I get arrested for it is kind of fucked.
Well, I mean, they've England. I don't know if they passed it. I think they passed it. Oh, I haven't followed up on it in a while. They basically enacted blasphemy laws.
Yeah.
Against Islam.
Germans,
you cannot speak against Islam.
Started to do it too.
It's not even like calls to violence against Islam. I'm just saying that hey, there's kind of a problem with the Islam, what's taught in Islam. If you did the same thing to Christians, it'd be fine. But if you can't do it to
if it's not violent and I can be arrested for it, then it's infringing on freedom of speech.
Well, yeah, no, and I would agree to the point of arrest in nearly every case, even in certain cases, calls to violence. If they were vague enough, I wouldn't appreciate them. But as far as arrests go, I don't know. I see it more as let the community sort out. That's my thing though. If the community doesn't want you in their community saying a whole bunch of shit, and they want you to leave their community with that shit or not say that shit in their community, I think that's fine. I think that's understable. There are things like
as long as they don't resort to violence to get them out of the community.
Yeah.
If they want again, if it's out in public and they want to protest against them on on the same sidewalk, then that's fine. Stand right by them, protest. It's when they're getting in their face and just screaming at them. Just say your piece. Let them say their piece. That's how it's supposed to work. I don't understand this whole.
The problem is that people make their political opinions part of their personal identity, and when you attack someone's personal identity, temperatures rise.
I think your political opinions are part of your personal identity.
To the point where it's the main thing about you, though.
Yeah, I think your political opinion should come from who you are.
See, this is
there's
actually
there's a difference between coming from who you are and making it such a part of you that when someone tries to criticize your opinion, you get violently angry.
Well, that's more of an issue of dealing with things, I think. I don't think there's any problem with having your political ideals be in line with who you are.
No, I do think
it's
there's
the reaction.
I'm personally offended for being criticized.
No, I do think there's an inherent problem with that. It's what a lot of people. Nietzsche spoke upon it. Dostoevsky talked about it. It's the replacement of religion with politics, and you see it very clearly nowadays, where for anybody involved in politics now, it's that is who they are. And I do not think that's healthy. I don't think... Because when that happens, anytime someone disagrees with your political opinion, they're inherently disagreeing with who you are as a person when you look at it that way. In that case, it's an attack on you. And that's why they're saying things like speech is violence. It's because they have made themselves their political thought. So whenever someone attacks that political thought, they are attacking them. That's why there's this overreaction nowadays on both sides. This overreaction to any kind of criticism. And I think it is inherently unhealthy.
I don't know. I feel like too much... on the opposite hand of that, I think too much separation from your own politics kind of separates you from seeing that these are not just ideas. These are things that have real-world applications and do influence the world around you and the people around you. And there's a certain point where you just remove yourself from it too much, and it's just kind of okay, it becomes like a hobby, instead of like something that actually does have real world applications.
Drawing your politics from your personal life is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when your politics become your personal life, and that's all it is.
Yeah, see, I think that's right. We're not saying you shouldn't look at it as an applied science, because that's what
you should hold some personal value over your life. But it's when people are it's the same thing with religion and like Islam, where you get criticized for it, and it's such a violent backlash to it because that is their identity. There is an issue.
Well, that's my thing, and I think that's the separation here. I don't know. But I think I think that's more of an issue with the reaction itself than with making. I don't see how the separation of politics from yourself is really beneficial. I mean, I can see
separation though.
we're talking about not making it all encompassing.
Yeah, and no, like absolutely making yourself a singular ideal. Yeah, that's a little much, but at the same time, I do think everything is in some way political. There is a political implication in everything.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as making yourself your political ideology, or vice versa.
See, well, I don't know. I think vice versa is very different.
No, you're right. No, I take that back. No, actually, yes, that would be fine.
That's what I'm advocating
for. Okay. Yeah, I said that wrong. No, I think you're right in that case. It's the problem is most people. It strikes me, at least the people who are talking the loudest, aren't. It's the former. They're making themselves from the political ideology,
right?
And I think that is dangerous.
People that roundhouse kick the females that talk to protesters about abortion and everything, like, that video?
Yeah.
Approached that guy and everything and had a different opinion of him, and he violently reacted because they had a different idea. Those are the kind of people who have an issue where if there's anything different from their line of thought, then it's a violent, wholly negative reaction.
No, I agree. Like, there's definitely like a point where you've just like made yourself a set of talking points, and that's not what I'm advocating for. And I think that is a problem, because you're basically you're not even setting yourself as like making those ideals your personality. You're making a list of things your personality, and you're not really believing in them as such. You're just kind of repeating them and parroting them over and over.
Back to what would be your most social points.
I think that's part of it, but that's not all.
There's absolutely unpopular ideologies that
it's a set of talking points that is regurgitated on social media constantly. It's the same thing that's regurgitated out in protests.
It's not. You're partially right. I think it's not social points on society as a whole. It's social points in a specific echo chamber that you're a part of, in a specific branch of society that you happen to fall into. Whatever that branch is, the people we're talking about will do whatever. They make themselves the branch, as opposed to contributing to the branch through themselves. They take on the form of that, basically the archetype of whatever that branch is. They take it on in physical form, and they just become whatever that branch is.
It's kind of like what we talked about with Twitter last time, where like there's groups that it's basically an echo chamber, and you say things because people within that echo chamber will be like basically just give you support because you said the thing, and then people just keep regurgitating them ad nauseum, regurgitating ad nauseum. That's it.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, where they just keep repeating the same things over and over and over and parroting them back and forth, and it's basically just like, it's not even really a discussion, it's just patting each other on the back and circle jerking endlessly into the sunset.
Yeah. No, that is happening. It's definitely a problem. I'm not a big fan of social media, and that's partially why. I think social media has not been handled correctly, and it's led to a lot of harm in society today. I'm not a fan of Twitter or anything like that.
I don't know. I feel like there's good uses for social media too, but like,
of course, there's good uses to anything. I just don't think it's been used correctly. Is what I'm saying.
The most popular use right now for is witch hunting.
Witch hunting and echo chambers both
is a problem. I will say that is like Twitter in particular.
Some guy said something really fucked at the time, 10 years ago or whatever, but I don't think his entire life just deserves to be destroyed because he said something slightly crass that everyone was saying at that time period.
No, see, I don't think that's at all the major downfall that's coming to society.
I'm talking about like James Gunn.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That is a problem. I just think there's a bigger problem, which is these. It's the further separation of society into these different branches. It's the alt-righters following alt-right people who say things for the alt-right people, and it's a big echo chamber. Same thing for the alt-left, for the tankies, for the normies, for anybody. They all fall into these groups, and they stay in the group. And they hear nothing from the outside unless they actively seek it. And 99% of the time, they don't actively seek it. It's this distancing between everybody.
Yeah.
That's the main problem I see with
it
social
ties
media.
back into you don't want to hear criticism of your viewpoint because it makes people violently angry.
I'm not saying that's not a problem. I'm just saying I think the main problem is the separation.
Those two problems tie into each other.
Oh yeah, of course I do.
People don't want to see opposite opinions because it makes them violently angry because it's something directly contrast to what they've made their personal identity.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. Of course it is. I think the separation is what it all comes down to is the willful seclusion of yourself into these tiny groups.
Well, it's easier to dedicate yourself to a cause than never have to self-reflect. It's easy to sit there and 100% believe in something and never self-reflect on it.
Of course it is.
I
don't blame these people for it. That's the problem that we're at right now. I don't think we're ready for social media.
I think social media has expounded it, but I think it's always been a problem when it comes to politics.
Of course,
since media became a thing.
It's gotten drastically worse since social media.
Social media has made it drastically worse.
Yeah.
It made it much more prevalent.
I think there's two major reasons for that. One, that social media is just blowing it up to where you have access to so many more people, and you're able to, which you would think, in theory, would open more dialogue, but in fact does not, because you have access to more people that agree with you, and you can just box yourself in that one little group. And also because of the way, like with Twitter, where you can just follow certain people and never hear anything else, and you can just unfollow somebody if they ever say anything you don't like.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of this, it's set up to do that, really. I don't think it was set up intentionally to do that. It was set up intentionally so that, hey, you can see your interests more, and that makes sense.
Exactly. No, it all makes sense. It's all correct. It's not the tool itself. I don't think we were ready for the tool as a society. I don't think we were ready for it.
I don't know. I don't know that there would be a point necessarily where we were ready for it. It's
maybe not.
It's one of those things where it's it is a result of that, and you by all means you can't. It's not like that's the only option. You can get on social media and follow people who wildly disagree with you just to kind of see what's going on, but it allows you to not do that.
Being to act with responsibility towards a larger society.
Exactly. I don't think that's
not the first thing people think.
No, it's not reasonable. That's what I'm saying. Is why I don't think.
And Devin makes a good point. Is I don't think there would ever be a point where we'd ever be ready for that, because invariably, if there's responsibility thrusted upon the majority of human beings, it backfires.
Yes, I agree.
Nowadays.
No, I think always. I don't.
Yeah. I don't think always. There's been times before us where it has been an issue, but with the diversification of ideas and everything, and just how much the individuals played up nowadays, I just don't. People normally put themselves first before any type of ideal of society or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I do think that is more prevalent today than it was. I would agree with that. I just, well, again, I mean, maybe we would never be ready for it then.
Yeah,
that's fine. I'm just saying, whether we would be in the future or not, I don't think we were ready for it at all when it happened. And again, which sucks, because like you said, in theory, I mean, looking back, I can't help but see how it came to this point. I can't see a way for it not to come to this point.
Yeah, it's just kind of...
It's inevitable, in my opinion.
Which at the same time, as far as not being ready for it, at the same time, that's also, it's a consequence of the information age.
Yes.
And how things have come about.
That's another good point. It's just sometimes big progresses actually fucking put civilization back just a little bit and everything, and not all progress is good.
No, I agree, but actually, I think there is something a little bit different about this one. Not in the way that most people say either.
Well, I'm just saying, right now it's viewed as something awful. 20 years from now, it can turn into something different.
Maybe, but there's been a difference between this one and big jumps in the past. The difference is the accelerated speed at which new discoveries are made. We are at a point where we are not able to, fully come to grips with what we're discovering in the. We don't have enough time to come to grips with what's happening today, or even 10 years ago. We don't have time because something new is happening. Something new. These
information overload.
Yes, these breaks between giant jumps are getting shorter and shorter, and that's making it harder and harder to know what to do next, to know how to handle these next jumps.
Well, I think it makes it difficult to assign any type of worth to them when they happen that fast.
Well,
There's always something different happening.
Well, I don't think
from a desensitization
standpoint, not like actual worth standpoint. I'm talking about like desensitization.
It's harder to get excited about something when shit's happening all the time.
Well, that's not. Yes, that's true. But what I'm talking about something a little more dangerous, which I think we're coming across these things. We're coming to certain milestones that are going to be very dangerous when we get to them. AI in its current form is not very dangerous. That's kind of overblown. But cloning
is rudimentary right now at best.
There's no
it's
way.
It's hard to predict the future of it.
There are certain things you can know. AI is not going to be dangerous in the way most people think it's going to be dangerous.
Right, yes. I understand it's not going to be like fucking Skynet.
Well, a lot of people don't, though. That's why I'm saying that. But
cloning is an issue.
Cloning's an issue. We don't have time to... self-driving cars. We don't... The algorithm to determine, do you crash into this guy? Do you crash into this guy? There's a lot of ethics at play that people in society are not having enough time to really sit down and discuss. It's just happening. It's happening. What's it like? Deus Ex. What's that?
Human revolution.
Yes, but like the idea behind it, where you're like cybernetic enhancements, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if they're still transhuman.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's like we just don't have enough time to really ask ourselves these questions in society before they're happening. I think we are driving very fast down a road, and we see a mountain ahead of us, and we don't know whether or not that hole has been painted there by Wile E. Coyote, or if there's an actual hole there. We do not know if we're about to crash.
You're scared that progress is happening so fast we're not asking ethical questions.
Yeah, and it's going to be very dangerous. Is what
I can understand that,
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. The self-driving cars thing reminds me of a tweet I actually saw from a software developer I follow. It was like, who said something to the effect of, as a person, I think self-driving cars are a very interesting thing, and I think technology is wonderful. As a software engineer, I saw a self-driving car run a red light.
That's very scary.
Perfect or anything, but like, you get people like that moron in Texas, wherever it was, that was running across the freeway in the middle of the night, pitch black, and a self-driving car hit her and killed her. You get morons like that are also setting back the want to have technology.
No, see,
like that.
That's not. I mean, yes, it was retarded, but I think it was even more.
My problem is that like.
But that should never have set self-driving cars back. I mean, any human would have hit them. Self-driving cars are not dangerous yet. They're not. I don't think that's.
What I say is like, the majority of the time when a normal human's in a car crash, they're going to prioritize their own safety above anyone else on the road.
Mm-hmm. But my big problem is these ethical questions are being answered by a very small handful of people that are actually making these things. Okay, it's not being open source to society as a whole. It's being answered by a very small group of people that I don't know. I can't see. I can't communicate with. I don't know what kind of algorithms they're putting into these machines.
If they have the wrong norms from the rest of society, wouldn't it say the free market would make it fail?
I think I'm a big fan of the free market, but I think we're getting to a point where there's almost too much danger a single individual could do to really act upon it in that way.
You gotta have faith in someone to make their own educated opinion about something. You can't hold progress. You're just scared someone won't make an educated opinion.
No, again, I'm not saying, it would slow progress down, yes, but I think that might be necessary at this point. I think there's too many variables at play. I think there's too much destruction that can happen just like that by one person just
if it's a
doing something
responsibility we're
wrong.
not ready for, we'll suffer a setback and then we'll pay the price for it and we'll learn from it.
Okay, but that's like saying, that's very defeatist. I would rather not hit that point where thousands of people are dead because of a
If we burn our hand touching a hot stove, then it's an important lesson we learned, but it's a lesson that we need to learn all the same.
But there's a possibility we could learn it without having to touch the stove. Take the thermometer to it instead. That's what I'm saying.
But if we're not smart enough to do that without forcing our hand and forcing people to make decisions that aren't their own or something they don't want to do, then maybe it's not a decision. Maybe it's a decision we need to learn on our own. It's literally like the mother telling the child not to touch the hot stove and the child touching it anyways. It's an important lesson to learn.
Okay.
Even though they could have learned that lesson without ever touching it.
I'm not saying we won't learn our lesson. I'm afraid what that lesson will cost us. I don't know if it's worth it. That's what I'm saying.
If it's a consequence we bring on ourselves, and it's a consequence we bring on ourselves, then I'm willing to pay whatever price that is.
That's a very big thing to say without knowing what that could be.
I'm interested in what you're advocating, like, as far as, like, a way to... What are you advocating as far as, like, what is the way?
I think that's the biggest... go ahead. I want
that we learn not to touch the stove in this case, for a metaphor.
I think that's honestly the question. That's the most pressing question we have today. Is how do we get these systems moving ethically without destroying the systems? I don't have an answer for that.
I think one thing that would help, and is kind of like, I see where you're coming from, Mitch, on this. I definitely do, and I don't necessarily like. I don't know. I don't look at technology as like inherently dangerous, so I'm not like full on the if we're not ready for it type of thing. Because, like I said earlier, there's a certain point with certain new technologies where I don't think we could ever say we are ready for it now. Even going back to like the Industrial Revolution, you can look at it and be like, people weren't really ready for it wholesale when it happened. But at the same time, I do kind of see where you're coming from with, like, you have this small group of people that are, like, creating these things. I think one thing that really helps with that is transparency to the public.
Yes, I agree.
I think that's something you have to have, because otherwise, it was like you were saying, you can make an informed decision. But if the information you're given is not true, then you can't. Or if the information you're given is doctored, or if you're only seeing the best results. And that's kind of, that's always been a problem with advertising.
My problem is that technology that can actually legitimately destroy humanity from no return has not been used because we do prioritize our own survival over progress or our own agendas. That being said, humanity is very, very resilient, and just like when the Industrial Revolution happened, children died wholesale as we were trying to come to terms with new technology and everything. If it's not a responsibility where we're ready to handle well, then maybe we need to pay the price for it so we can handle it well.
See, no, I'm not in a position to say let someone figure it out. I'm not saying that. You
don't ever really truly appreciate something unless you see also the good and the bad and what it can do.
And yes, that's what I'm saying. But we can test things to make them where we can see the bad in a controlled setting where it's not costing hundreds of lives.
There's people in the
game time, bitches.
You should, if you would have gone through there, that would have been fine. I think that was too loud. The garage door. Maybe I can cut it out a little bit. Okay.
The problem is the Industrial Revolution, they saw how dangerous those machines were, and they chose to do it anyways.
Okay, well...
And you can't make a private company's decision become
No,
public
see,
decision.
you're not... You're
Actually, you can.
No, damn it. No, see, you're hearing what I think you're hearing the argument that you want to hear. That's not at all what I'm... What are you doing, Payne? Yes, close it. What are you doing?
It's stuck.
You have just... You know what? Go, please.
This is technology we weren't ready for.
We weren't ready for garage doors.
Actually, though, for real, though, garage door springs, horrifyingly dangerous.
Oh, yeah? The wooden thing on the side is sticking in.
Like electronic garage door springs. They have, like, a really, really high pressure, and if they ever break out of their housing, like, it's a nightmare.
Oh, really? Okay, so no, I think you're hearing the argument that you've heard before, that you think that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm not saying get rid of the stove because the child might burn themselves.
That's not what I'm saying you're saying either. What I'm saying is we need the bad things to happen with technology coming in so we can respect it much more and we can understand it much more.
That's a very defeatist attitude. I'm saying there are ways to do this without costing hundreds, if not thousands, of lives because of some fuck-up that could have been spotted in a lab or in a controlled setting.
My thing is, there's not a lot of technology right now that has the threat of hundreds of thousands.
That's bullshit.
Lives.
Self-driving cars. We're doing more and more stuff with drones. We're doing more and more stuff.
Almost completely halted and almost turned back self-driving cars.
Okay, yes, okay. But I'm saying that's the first step on it. This is, again, we're going so fast between these breaks that we do not have time to catch up with them.
We are getting closer and closer. Self-driving cars after that, guys?
A quick interjection that ties in with that, and I think actually is one of the benefits of things like social media. is that when something does go wrong, it is blown up, and occasionally things that aren't that bad are blown up to massive proportions. But
yes, and that's what that was.
At the same time, you do have it does add at least some level of transparency. When something goes wrong, everybody can see it.
Yes, that's true. That's one of the good things about social media. I agree with that. My problem is that wasn't what I'm talking about. That one death in wherever it was. That was stupid and no fault at no way.
Historical example then.
No, I cannot, because we're in a vastly different age, Mitchell. Again, we're advancing so quickly we do not have time to accurately take in the variables.
Actually, yes, I think I do have one. That might, if I'm getting where you're coming from. Nuclear power plants that weren't built to code.
That's still going to result in hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Not hundreds of thousands. No.
That's what I'm saying. Is
they were catastrophic for what happened.
What if-isms here all day, but right now we have extremely rudimentary technology that could potentially destroy hundreds of thousands.
Okay, I'm thinking thousands. We're not far from thousands. The rate at which robotics is advancing, the more and more we're using them, robotics are fucking dangerous.
I agree. Robotics are very dangerous.
Yes. The problem is that I don't think we've seen the technology I'm talking about. I don't think it's far away though, and that's part of the problem. Is I think it's happening and we're not seeing it. These massive advances that I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, I agree.
That's my problem. I'm not talking about self-driving cars. I shouldn't have mentioned that as an example.
That's the nature of having private companies and R&D departments.
No, I'm not. Okay, and again, I'm not saying that we should regulate. I'm saying there should be internal regulation. Those companies should regulate themselves. That's what I'm advocating for. Is a willing regulation.
Well, then you can see that the only sword that the public has to use against that is social media and being able to witness.
Yes, like I said, social media is good. I'm saying I was talking earlier about the bad. There is good to social media.
I was like, I don't want government regulating anything whatsoever when it comes to technology, but the only sword the public has to use against any type of private company is social media.
One of the things I'm talking about they could be doing is like there was I think it was Harvard or it was one of the Ivy schools. I think it was their robotics department put together like a website where it was like a game. It was like, okay, well, it wasn't a game because it wasn't fun, but it was built like a game. It's like you control the self-driving car, and then it had two bets. Yeah, that's something they did. There's like they open sourced the ethics of it. They let society as a whole say, okay, well, I think it'd be better to hit the 2 grandmas instead of the 3 children. That sucks, but the choice might have to be made in the future, right? I mean, personally, I say perfect the brake system where you don't hit anybody, but that's not realistic.
Well, first and foremost, what private companies are going to do is protect the user more than anything else. Because there's ones that's like hit the barricade or hit the pregnant woman or something. Private companies are going to protect the user more than anything else.
I think maybe in the past, but I'm not sure about.
Going to protect is their profits.
I was going to say people won't buy a car that will choose something else's life over their own.
Like if you have a Samsung phone that happens to explode on a
Mine
regular
almost
basis.
did. My battery expanded. It was to the point of almost exploding when I took it in. Yeah, it scared the crap out of me when I figured out that was what it was.
But yeah, like it's great that we have all these moral systems and everything, but what comes down to is what mass of people do the less damage to the car and the person. Because people aren't going to buy a car that will put them in more danger.
See, and I personally would not buy a car that did that. I wouldn't buy a car that did that wouldn't crash into the wall instead of 3 right now.
My thing is self-driving cars, even right now, we're at least 100 years probably away from truly allowing the car to drive itself. You should always have a driver.
No.
What I'm saying is like the Uber driver.
Mm-hmm.
That guy was there for a reason, and that was to take control as soon as anything went wrong.
Yeah, you're only 10 years away, Max. I'm almost positive.
Then we'll see. But I'm talking about like everyone using a self-driving car.
I think
it's going to get regulated in pretty quick. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if they'll be expensive, but prohibitively expensive at first, I would imagine. But I think self-driving trucks are probably like semi-trucks are probably.
Well, yeah, they're all
No, see, I disagree with that because I think insurance companies are going to jack up the price and say, hey, I'm not going to insure you if you're not driving a self-driving car because you're vastly more at risk. I'm going to have to pay you a lot more, most likely, than I would have to pay someone who's not driving a self-driving car.
That is an interesting.
I think it's going to jack up the price on the insurance if you're not driving, or if I guess technically if you are driving, it's going to jack up the price.
The problem is that someone should always be ready. A self-driving car is being looked at as, oh, this is one less responsibility I have to have as a person, but you should still always be ready to take over for the self-driving car in case something goes wrong.
that should be built in. I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying is I don't think we should rely on it this heavily this early. That's what I'm saying.
I agree. I'm just saying that it will be able to.
Which ties back
within
to what you
10,
said.
10 years at the very least.
Which ties back to what you said with technology and everything is that I'm glad that this technology is coming across, but what it comes down to is how reliant we're willing to make ourselves on it, how quickly.
I agree. That's what I'm saying, is that it's happening too quickly. We're not having enough time to... Oh, Payne's here, by the way, everybody. Yeah. Payne, what do you think about technology?
Goods and bads.
And Payne, everybody. The literal middle ground of this podcast.
I think the biggest thing is what's coming up, though, is the way technology is affecting the military and everything. It's making it easier to conduct agendas and carry out attacks without ever having to put boots on the ground, which is what most of the public cares about.
See, I'm really torn on that issue. I'm very torn on it.
I'm glad human life isn't going to be at as much risk. But
me too.
The fact is that military action and carrying out military action is slowly losing its meaning.
See,
more and more.
My biggest problem with it is I appreciate that it's gonna cost a lot less in terms of our human life. I'm worried that the lower the cost to taking a life, the more life will be taken unnecessarily.
And I think removing the human element there also does kind of remove any ethical qualms. Yes, the drone driver could or the drone controller could refuse a mission, but they're so separated at that point that it's less likely.
I disagree with you because proportionally to our population, this is the most peaceful humanity has ever been in relation to killing each other.
No, I agree. I wouldn't say I was for sure on it.
Ever killed each other proportion to our population.
Right.
Well, actually, I think there's a different reason for that. It's just that in most cases, the cost of war is so much higher now than it was previously.
Well, I think it has to do with a lot more different things, such as a normal average Joe is now a warrior now, whereas it used to be a warrior mentality with a lot of things. It used to be a lifestyle and less of a obligation in society for a long time.
Well, no,
civilization as a whole is also much more
people value human life.
Has more foundation.
It's like the shoot to kill, where it was something like 60% of soldiers said that they would shoot to kill, but after their first combat mission, most of them report missing on purpose and just firing to keep the other person's head down.
No, well, that's been the case since
World War II.
At least World War II.
That's when the first studies were done.
Yeah. Which I think is kind of one of those issues with drones where.
But the more technology we have, the more precise we're getting. We're getting more precise with killing exactly who we want to. Civilian casualties are amazingly low now.
No, I agree.
The only time you see them anything higher is when you remove the technology that allows us to be so precise, such as the Syrian Civil War, where you have enemies fighting each other that don't have the precision of the United States military, the Russian military, and they're killing tons of civilians.
Or the information given is either skewed or intentionally skewed.
Because America right now is more intent on killing who they want to kill and no one else than they ever have been before.
No, I agree. And again, in general, I'm in favor of it. There's just a little bit in the back of my head that I'm still not quite worked out on. I'm still struggling with it a little bit. But I think I'll end up coming to being in favor of it.
What I'm scared of is the fact that the military... First of all, right now the soldier is nothing more than a technology operator. They're nothing more than they're operating a piece of technology at this point, which is only going to get worse and worse. But my thing is that eventually once technology is able to overtake the military stratosphere as being the main combatant rather than other humans, is when technology is going to take over society as well.
How so?
What I'm scared of, jobs is what I'm the most scared about, because in all honesty, in a capitalistic society like this, when automation happens, it doesn't directly correlate to better societal standards for other people.
No.
It typically induces higher poverty rates.
For a time that it tends to...
Well, once we understand everything, but that can take decades before.
We're definitely going to take a hit. I don't think that. I think that's inevitable. It's going to be pretty rough.
It also increases the amount of training necessary to get a lower level job.
Yeah, no, definitely, but
that's a problem with colleges now, though, is that I have an issue with.
Yeah, there's very few things I think you should go to college for.
Holding education to such a high paywall, a lot of times.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
But
that ties into. I agree, but I think there's probably different reasons.
I was going to say we shouldn't chase down that rabbit hole right now because that's going to lead to a whole other lot of reasons.
But in general, I think college is basically almost useless unless you're going into a couple of different... There's a few fields that it's still useful. I think in 75% of cases, you probably shouldn't be going to college.
I think, yeah.
For 75% of degrees, I
I
think.
can agree with that because trade is what really carries the workforce right
Basically
now.
STEM, maybe, and maybe a few others to teach, like, I think we need to drastically cut down the humanities.
Oh.
In terms
I
of,
don't
like...
think you should cut them down in any way.
I'm talking about in terms of who's graduating with a degree from them.
Oh.
Because it's just, unless you're going to teach, there's not a lot you
My
can do
thing
with it.
is I just think students...
It should still be taught. Why? I think everybody should take humanities classes.
Well, first of all, I think everyone should take a year between college and high school to realize what they want to do. And I think there needs to stop being such a high amount of pressure that you have to go to college or you won't be successful.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think the pressure that...
I didn't know about fucking trade schools until I was 19. And I was already in college. I didn't realize exactly what trade schools did, and I realized that trade school was just as viable as going to college. Because I had college shoved down my throat my entire time in high school, but trade schools was never really that highly touted.
And I will say I agree with what you just said from a practical standpoint, because it's very, very easy to bankrupt yourself and go into a field that will not pay off your loans. Although I will say I agree more with what Mitchell said about there being too high of a paywall on education. As far as cutting down the humanities, I don't agree with that. I don't think the humanities should be cut down because I think the humanities are very, very valuable for societal reasons.
Oh, come on, Devin. You know me. You know I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying-
and that's what
is that
There's too many people
So
graduating.
many people going for that.
There's too many people graduating with that are doing things that
That
aren't
are
in any way
basically
related
going
to
out
that
there and
degree.
starving them.
Not started, just doing jobs that are in no way related
Yeah.
to that degree.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
But
I just think.
I don't know.
I think you can get the same education with that.
see,
The way
that's
you
my
can overcome that is by educating students much better.
And, I think the humanities in general should be like you said, you should like humanities classes being required. A lot of people, for some reason, have this issue with that I don't understand.
No,
because they're like it's not practical.
That's
and
the original
not
purpose of the university.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
the
what was
point.
it like? The last time I had to take an art class or something mandatory was
I
my
had-
6th grade year of
I had to
middle
take it
school.
in college. I had to take
Oh,
mandatory.
you had to?
I had to take. I
Okay.
took music in
I'm
life.
talking about pre-college.
Oh.
When people are forming.
No, yeah,
We
there's
were
not any.
forced to take one music class when we were in 6th grade in middle school, right?
Yeah,
We had to do either band or
that was
vocal.
literally the last time we were required. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that was the last time we were required to do anything of the higher arts.
No,
Like it was available. I'm not saying it wasn't available, but that's the last time we were
Yeah.
required. I think I agree with Devin and you that I think arts need humanity needs to be required in classes more.
And that actually raises a good point. I think that humanities in particular, and in particular things like philosophy and history especially, need to be more widely and more intensively taught early on. And then after that, you go into your specialization.
See,
I think that's a better
how
setup.
early are we talking? Philosophy
not
is
like kindergarten. Yeah, no, it's
that's kind of like I think high school is probably best for philosophy.
no, like start with like around like high school years
Okay,
because
then, yeah, I
like
agree with that. Then.
elementary education is basically like how to function as a human being.
I mean, I've sat my
That's-
4-year-old down. I've been like, "Hey, this is Nietzsche. Get through it." he can't get past the first word.
One day.
Well, eventually, maybe next year.
The problem is right now is that the school programs do nothing to prepare anyone really for the real life of anything. There's not there. I can safely say, besides some math ways and geometry, well, history obviously.
I
But
mean,
that was that's
science
hobby
to
I
some
chose
extent.
for
Chemistry's helped me a little bit.
Well, like it hasn't really technically everything.
that's
I've
'cause
But is
had
it
to
anything
really-
you couldn't learn on the job?
No,
Yeah, see.
but it
The other
certainly
thing-
helped me pick up things quicker.
Okay, well, yeah.
Well, see, congratulations. One class for 1 year kind of helped you. But the majority of what people feel like in high school and middle school is that they go out and they don't know what taxes are for.
Yeah,
They don't know how
Yes.
taxes work.
Absolutely.
They don't know how to vote. There's a point where, like, it's great that we're learning about our history and everything, but we also need to learn how to be citizens
Yeah,
in a republic.
I think ethics and civics should be taught.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think every single
Government class, you remember that with Labrador?
It was a joke.
Yeah, how big of a joke that was, and how it was just learn about Oklahoma's past for more than half of it, and then we learned a little bit about I didn't learn anything about government.
I think absolutely that a civic, like an actual in-depth civics, even maybe a series of
I was going to
civics
say, I
courses
wouldn't mind 4 years of it. I think that would be just fun.
Should be
Every year you
mandatory
should
in
have a
high
civics
schools
class.
because it's very important, and there should be a practical civics course where like you learn like
My thing
what
is
taxes are and how they work.
Yeah.
and things
more
like that.
completely.
more like lectures and everything at high schools where like this class is called for like a few hours or a few periods, and there's a lecture in the auditorium
That would
about
be really
how
good,
something
actually.
works.
Yeah, no, that actually lectures in high schools, I think, would be like more lectures in high schools would be a really good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went to high school. I know high schoolers.
The
I don't know if that would be.
You
I think that appeals to us in particular as people. I think most people wouldn't be appealed to.
The problem is
to
you can
lectures.
give people the resources. It's not up to you to make sure they use the resources.
And that's fair.
But I'm just saying I don't know if that would be the best resource to give them. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, not like constantly, but I do
if the
think
information is
that.
there,
There needs to be a good, healthy mix.
No,
between
you can
your
find better
styles
ways
of
to get the
teaching.
I mean,
information.
to be
That's
fair,
not-
there is a solid chance that there's a lot of kids that are just going to go to the lecture to get out of class and then maybe hear something interesting. So,
Well, yeah,
I mean,
voluntary
there's-
lectures would be pretty cool.
That'd be good. I just think a flat 4-year civics. I think that's
Civics in
what I think.
general.
My
Yes,
problem is
absolutely.
that I think the whole entire thing of stacking homework on top of students and making them do 8 sheets of it, where it turns more into a job rather than a learning experience, is a difficulty. I also think the standard we hold teachers to is way too low.
I agree.
But that also comes back into such as things like pay and
Yeah,
respectability of the
yeah.
job.
Teachers need to be held to a high standard. Absolutely.
It doesn't help that education in a lot of states is one of the highest departments that embezzling cases happen in.
Yeah. Well, I think the main problem is I think we need to take it back to a local level. I would not be comfortable with my child sitting through a civics class that's being pushed down through the national government. That would not be okay with
State
me.
level, yeah.
State level would be fine. That'd be good.
See, the thing is like, growing up, I was always like, yeah, homeschool kids are really weird. Like, I think homeschool kids are the weirdest and everything.
If I had the time, I'd do it.
See, my thing is like, I would love to homeschool my kids, but first of all, you need the societal connection. You need them to be out there with other people and everything constantly. You can't, the school is a experience everyone should experience together.
I agree, but I think it's getting the public schools are getting so bad that
Yeah, public schools are getting awful.
Yeah.
I mean, like, fuck, Oklahoma has more superintendents than we have counties. Like,
No, really?
Yeah,
That's
we had
hilarious.
something like 46 counties. We have 48 superintendents.
Where do you find that stat?
It was during the teacher riot and everything. People were rioting during everything.
Not riots. They were
protests.
We have
strike.
Oklahoma has the lowest paid teacher rate, right?
49th now.
49th. Okay.
It's what 48 or 49.
It's either 48, 49th, or 50th.
I'm moving on up. I
Yeah.
moved from like the 46th or something to even lower. It's a good time.
But that's the problem is that education normally is never taken seriously by any level of the government.
Well, I think we should move to a voucher program. I think that would solve a lot of problems, in which case the student chooses where they go to school. Those better schools will get more money through those vouchers. I think being forced to go to a certain school because you live in a certain neighborhood doesn't make any sense to me. Let them go where they want to go. The better school will get more students, therefore more money. The lower school will either have to pick it up or they'll get shut down.
My problem is you can't like incentivize schools with money like that because we've seen what happens with standardized testing.
That's
The schools that get higher standardized.
That's different, though. We're incentivizing them through the consumer. That's the free market.
Okay, I get you a little bit,
The parents and the students pick the best school for their child for them.
I guess I get you. My problem is that
actually a free market idea that I don't disagree with.
my problem
See, I've
is
never heard a
that
good argument against it.
when you
I've tried. I
incentivize
haven't
with
found a good
money,
one.
You always end up.
That's why I'm so surprised by so many. I didn't think you would be, but a lot of people on the left don't like that idea, and I couldn't understand why. It's very.
Well, I mean, on some level, it does. There are a few problems I can see that, like, parents who can't afford to get their children to a distant school is an issue.
Well, then what could you do really in that case anyway? I mean, that's just.
Well, yeah, but then if the school close by shuts down because they don't have people going to it, then what do they do? Type of thing. Which you could easily deal with that by like increasing public transport and things.
I was gonna say, well, I mean, I don't think
public transport's great.
I
Shout out
imagine
to
there's
public
more than one
transport.
kid who's going to be outside the bounds, and they're going to want that school's going to want those vouchers, and it's probably going to be cost effective for them to get those kids in most cases.
Yeah, that's a good point. The money you can spend on gas to send a bus 20 miles away, pick some 20 kids up in another town, the money you get from them is probably more than what you'll spend on the gas.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, there's probably a couple cases, but I don't think. I mean, I think it's still miles better. I mean, there might be. I can't think of anything better. I guess is what I'm saying. I can't think of a better system than that.
I get you. My problem is that you can see that becoming like centralized schooling and everything. There's like, for instance, if Union had the best schools, none of us go to Alice School or anything. The majority of us go to Enid School. I don't know how I feel. I don't know exactly how I feel about that. Like having more centralized school where more people go to one school.
Well, I think you're only looking at it from one point of view, which is, I don't think you're accounting for.
Taking like an old, like the original like concept of universities and applying it to schooling in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I don't know how I feel about that.
But you're only looking at half of what competition does. Someone's going to see that massive influx of cash just leaving town, and they're going to be like, I could build a school here for a lot cheaper than they would be paying me to keep them in town, and I can make it good enough that they'd want to stay here. There's another side to competition, which is someone else rising to take over this market.
The problem is looking at that, though, is you're not really going to get investors. It's going to be hard to get investors like that for a school, normally. Because just like now with a lot of competition that have most of the money and have most of the consumer base and everything, you don't see a lot of startups against it succeeding.
See, I don't think that's right, because the amount of money we spend per student is ridiculous. If we actually put that into a voucher,
I'd have to actually see the money and everything.
I don't remember the numbers. I just remember being completely shocked when I heard the numbers.
Yeah, see, I assume it's pretty high per student, but I'd have to see the actual numbers before I ever committed to anything like that. But it sounds like a good idea on service because at the very least, it's lighting a fire under the asses of people that need to have a fire lit under their
That's
asses.
the main purpose of it.
Yeah.
It's not to shut the bad schools down. It's to make the bad schools
right.
get better. You might inevitably
shut them. The whole entire point
down.
of it is making sure people, give a fuck. And that's what I'm 100% behind.
I freaking hate the teachers' unions. So much.
But my thing is like, teachers are treated real shittily in a lot of states, but that being said, teachers are also kind of shitty in a lot of states.
See, my thing, real quick with teachers' unions, and it does tie into that, is I don't have a problem with teachers' unions as such.
It's what they're doing. I have a problem.
Yeah. It's the execution. I think teachers' unions are incredibly important because you do have like people who would just cut education repeatedly, and you need something to stop that. On the other hand, you do have teachers who should not have their job, who are bad at being teachers.
I spoke too rashly. I hate the modern teachers. I hate what they're doing.
Someone coming and moving to fucking Alabama because they're gonna have a $50,000 a year job teaching or coaching football, and they have to have it. They have to be the history teacher.
That's my thing. Coaches should be a separate position.
Yeah, unless they're an actual good teacher.
The problem is it's not like a forcing. It's because of a budget thing.
Yeah.
They make the coach also be a teacher.
But it's always certain, or at least in my experience, it was always certain humanities that end up with that.
Yeah, humanities always.
It's history courses.
Payne, you've been silent. You're in high school right now. Give us some thoughts. Give us the inside scoop on high schools right now.
Well, for coaches right now, it's not just history anymore, although that is the majority. There's actually a lot more actually going into special ed.
Oh, okay. That would probably be good.
I think that's a good idea.
Whip those kids into shape.
Actually, we're. I have a class right now that the coaches are actually going to come in, and we're going to ask them questions, and so I'll get you guys back on that.
Make sure you have like the microphone and the notepad.
I will.
But yeah, it's especially bad like in small towns like this where elementary school teachers in small towns like this seem to care a lot about their job. Just when you start reaching like high school, where they just stop giving a shit.
Which to some extent, it's like you said earlier. To some extent, and I don't agree with this as someone who went into like a humanities field with the intention of being an educator in it, but money. If you go into a field like that, you should go into it intending to educate, though.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I agree.
100%. I think that. However, at the same point, you do have a lot of teachers who are good teachers and do try their best to be good teachers, but they are not given resources to be as good of teachers as they could be.
See, the problem is, I think good teachers can make do. I really do think
you can only make so much do when your textbooks are from the 60s.
But the problem is they're throwing money at the Detroit public school system, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Well, that's Detroit in general.
Okay, but I don't think throwing money at the problem is going to fix it.
Okay, but my problem is when teachers have to have each student bring in a sheet of printer paper and a tissue box because they're not getting enough money to have in-classroom supplies. So the students that are coming in are having to bring in supplies to use for the whole school year.
Yeah,
that's a fucking issue.
Yeah.
That doesn't really bother me, honestly. I've been doing that. I had to do that. I have kids.
But that's my thing is why should you have to? You shouldn't have to do that. that you pay taxes. You shouldn't have to do that.
Well, yeah, I think. Well, I agree. If I wouldn't have a problem with it if I wasn't having to pay such a high national tax. It's just that I think it should be more localized.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have
Local-
spare USB ports.
Yeah, I got one for you. It's a bit of a reach.
Well, that's my thing. Is like
I'm just gonna plug this
you
up to
shouldn't
charge
have
it.
to be doing that. They should have basic resources like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And teachers should not have to be paying. Well, I understand if they want something like a luxury for a classroom. They should probably
Yeah,
pay out
like
of pocket.
if
but
you
like,
want like your fucking like laser beam history machine, like yeah, sure,
yeah.
but
like
like-
I see teachers make new like when I used to go substitute and everything. You know those old projector screens that we used to work.
They
on?
still use those?
Yeah, they still use them, and they use them amazingly well. That's
Mhm.
making do, which I think is a great way to do that. But my thing is we shouldn't have to be making them tell the students you need to bring in this item and this item and this item, so the whole classroom.
Oh, I agree with all that. I just don't think money is the problem with bad teachers. Is what I'm getting at.
it's
I'm
where the money
I'm sure good
goes.
teachers could do better if they had more money.
It's
I
where
just
the
don't think money
goes,
itself
I
is
think.
going to fix the problem.
My
I
problem.
do think teachers' wages in general should probably increase because
I don't know about that. I think I think high school teachers for small schools are pretty much where they're at. The problem is where the money's going to really.
yeah, no
is
funding
not towards
absolutely
resources
is.
for them. I think their wages are okay as of right now. I
Well,
think
you want to
they
know the
could-
best way to do that, Devin?
Hmm.
Privatize it. That's the best way to get teachers.
That fixes one problem and creates another though. That's
Yeah, that's one more step away from the communist revolution.
No, privatize it with vouchers. That way, anybody can go anywhere.
But like,
That's what I'm talking about.
elementary school teachers, I don't think are paid. I think
Mhm.
I think they're criminally underpaid in that they are considered a lower job because they are teaching younger members of society, and high school students or high school teachers are paid more because they're teaching high schoolers. Whereas I don't think no matter what grade you're teaching should be judged on how much you make.
Frankly, I think pay the elementary teachers more.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, like that's what that
Kids are rough.
I've mainly substituted at Longfellow and the elementary schools and everything. What's the one just?
What grades?
Where's the one across from your house? Your old duplex.
That's the high. Oh, that's Washington.
Washington. I've substituted a lot there. I've substituted a lot at Longfellow. And
This
I've
is,
substituted at Lincoln a little bit.
Okay, that's basically kindergarten through fifth for everybody.
Yeah.
It's all three of those.
And I've seen like the elementary school classrooms, like if the teachers put in so much effort to make it it's so much learning, and they put all in this effort, but they're not paid nearly as much as high school teachers are that don't put in that much effort.
No, you're right. And frankly, I think in most cases that early education is a lot more important.
Because
than
they're
the high
so
school
much more
education.
dependent on the teacher too. Because high school students are more independent creatures.
From something I've seen, I can't remember what it was, but basically, you get to a certain point in elementary where I think it's like third grade, where if you're behind at that point, you're basically screwed. Like you're not going to catch up in terms of like reading and math, because it's just more added on to what you don't know yet,
Yeah.
and everything builds upon that to where you basically are. If you get to that point without knowing a certain like key, certain foundation, you're not going to ever catch up.
My thing is just like the standard. I'm glad Common Core is slowly starting to be realized by everyone how shitty it really is. When I was in high school, I have a problem with math. Like, I have a mental block when it comes to math. Even basic math, I hit a mental block and it takes me a second to overcome it. I'm really bad with math.
How
And
many
so
fingers
I...
am I holding up?
What? Stop. And I have been bad with math since the 4th grade. And I have always had either a D or an F in math classes. Instead of, all the way until I was a junior, identifying this problem and helping me through it, I was simply punished for it whenever I failed. And it was not seen as like, maybe this kid isn't doing well at math. I talked to teachers, tried doing extra credit and everything. The resources aren't there for students that actually have trouble with subjects. Instead, they're punished for doing bad during those subjects.
Yeah, that is a problem. That is definitely a problem.
Because
I don't know
that's
how
the
to
quickest
fix
way
that
get
problem.
that's the quickest way to get standardized testing grades up is by, it's a quick punishment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, standardized testing and stuff definitely contributes to that problem.
it's like,
Which I'm glad Common Core has been realized to be the fucking monster it is.
Yeah.
and it's kind of a separate issue, but it does tie into the method of handling it that you're talking about there. When I was in like elementary school, I always had like really really high grades in like English, like writing. I wrote above my level when I was school, whatever. But at one point, I like was removed from the class and like put in a different classroom because your handwriting's bad. And I'm like, yeah, I know my
Really?
handwriting's bad. I've been trying to fix it, but it was because it was in cursive. I couldn't write in cursive to save my fucking life. And I can literally sign my name in cursive, and that's about it.
That's all I can do anymore.
In Washington, I had to do that.
For handwriting?
Logan had to go to a different class because he had a slight speech impediment.
Yeah, see, speech and stuff I can kind of understand. Like, that's, you really need some one-on-one time with that.
Well, I understand that, but, like...
The handwriting, I haven't heard of. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no,
my thing is Logan was removed from classes. And for a little bit, it was half a semester because I got under control really quick. I was removed from classes. That's some after-school or before-school shit.
Well, the problem is I think there's probably a lot of parents that wouldn't do that. Wouldn't let their children go after
Logan got put in a speech class, an actual speech class outside of school, and that's when he started doing better.
Yeah, I'm sure it's better. I'm just saying, I think you have an obligation.
My thing is like the actual well-being of the student. I don't think is that important to the body, not to the teacher in general, but to the body that represents the teachers. The actual well-being of the student does not matter that much.
I thought you meant to you. I was confused.
No.
Okay. It's just that you worded that weird.
Seeing an individual student that's troubled and everything and having a hard time succeeding, I don't think it matters that much, as much as it should. Because it's seen a lot of times as either conform or you get punished. Which I understand conforming or something like that, but like, I obviously have a very big learning deficiency with math. Like, math is very difficult for me, and it was never addressed growing up, and I was just told, I was basically shouted at everything. Yeah. It was basically, you need to get better at math or you're going to get in trouble.
Well, why didn't you? Sounds pretty straightforward to me.
That about the speech thing, funny anecdote. I was put in a speech therapy class in elementary school as well for about 3 sessions before they realized what the problem was. When I was a little kid, I was really, really bad about taking things like super literally and like hyper literally. So when adults would say things in like baby talk, I thought that's how you were supposed to pronounce things. So I was like, bathtub. And they put me in a speech class and they were like, it's bathtub. And I was like, but my mom says bathtub. And they're like, Jesus Christ, get out of here.
You little scamp.
See, I've always been made fun of pronouncing things like, pronouncing every word or something like, how most people pronounce.
What is the one? There was one word you pronounced that kills me. It's great. I love it.
While you're thinking, here's what you do that pisses me off. I think you do it on purpose to fuck with me because of how serious I take like pronunciation. I think you purposely mispronounce names of people because it seems to me you go out of their way to pronounce it wrong. You like Trudeau, you call it Trudeau.
Yeah,
it doesn't even look like that.
No, I do that a lot.
I have like a little aneurysm every time you do that.
My thing is like, I call the Oklahoma town Clinton. I pronounce it that way. Clinton.
Clinton, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone I know pronounces it Clinton.
Oh no, that's a dialectical problem.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm not saying that's like.
That's all. I realized that
speech thing.
I realized that about a year ago. We don't pronounce T's. We pronounce T's.
Like I've always been made fun of my entire life for pronouncing things like Worcestershire sauce. I'm the only person I know that
Worcestershire.
Yeah, see, I always pronounce every word I can see.
Well, no, you're pronouncing those things correctly. Surprisingly enough.
Yeah, it's just names.
Yeah, names is what. No, we don't around this area. We pronounce our T's if it's not a stressed T, we pronounce it as a D. Our soft T's are D's for some reason.
What grows out of the base of the tree?
A trunk.
The base of the tree into the ground.
Roots.
Hey!
What?
Root. It's a root.
Roots.
Roots.
I love that one. That one's great.
Root.
Something.
Like, wait, that's right. Something. Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Something.
Sam made fun of me for that for the longest time. Something.
Something.
And then apparently I put an odd stress on the word "come" sometimes. Like
you do that every time.
I
don't know. Like
here it comes.
It's the way you say it, especially.
How do I say it?
You'll be like,
you know the video game Kingdom, whatever, Deliverance, right?
Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Kingdom Come.
I was like, I pronounce it Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Okay, I hear it.
I don't.
Especially if you're talking about it more slowly, though. It's Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Well, no, there's the colon there. That's correct.
Yes.
Come.
There's some times where you say it where there's like a slight pause and there shouldn't be after that word.
Remember how mad James used to get at me for my dialect? So when you, if you got something out and you started using it, whether it be a kitchen appliance or something, and you looked at someone like your kid or Sam or something and wanted them to take care of it and put it back in its original place, what would you tell them to do?
Put it up.
Okay, James gave me so much shit for saying put it up all the time.
What do you mean?
That is like an Oklahoman thing, apparently.
Really? Put it up?
South does that too.
Oh, James, that is one thing James used to always lose his shit over for me, is
Did
like,
you
I'd
see-
say put that up.
You know what I thought was cool? There's a
Put it
thing.
away.
His is put it away.
Oh, that's
that's too
pretentious
many
bastard.
syllables for me. I don't.
Yeah.
There's this cool thing online where you can like take the test and like say how you say certain words, and it has like a county map of the country, and it narrowed me down to a specific county based on how I said it.
that's
It was
really
crazy, yeah.
I took this class that was like about that, like how language differs over like areas and things like that, and how it shifts over time. And it was a really cool. That's a really cool thing to look
It
into.
is really cool. Okay, so actually, perfect segue. I want to get back into this. I think that different languages impact thought. I think Germans think different than English people. I think Russians.
Yeah.
I mean it like influence philosophy, like
think-
ethics and morals.
I think that languages
Why wouldn't they?
languages in their origins are affected by their location,
I think,
which also
What?
affects thought. I think that they are both things that are affected by, or that thought is affected. I don't think thought is. I think thought is like, okay, so you have like the location
Yes.
and a host of other
Location,
factors.
location.
A host of other factors too. But I think like you have location and these other factors, and that influences the thought of the region and also the language of the region. You have, for instance, real quickly, just as far as like.
Wait, are you saying there's an evolution to language that has
I
developed?
think
Of course,
it
yeah.
sounds like you're just saying what
That's
he
fine.
said, except for
You're
more.
just taking it a step back. I think
it's
that's
like,
right.
I think it forks off earlier than you do. I think because I think language.
You're thinking the thought comes before language.
No, I think thought and language both come from the same
I think you
source.
both
Whereas
could be
I
right.
think
I don't
it's
think either
like.
one
Yeah, I think
one,
I
two,
agree with what
three.
you're saying.
I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
either one
See,
of these
I'm
is
seeing
wrong.
it as like a fork.
I'm
whereas-
saying I think modern thought is a lot more influenced by language than we
Thought
think
is
it
so
is.
As a
easily
history of
swayed
language,
by
sure,
how
yeah.
you think and what you use to think and what you know. That
Yeah.
yes, of course, every especially major factor like language is going to change. Yeah, I agree with exactly
no,
what
in a
you
modern
said.
sense, absolutely.
But I think it's very like okay. So there was a study. I talked to you about this. I don't think Mitchell was here when we did it. There was a study that was taken based upon like basically just thought in Europe across the different countries in Europe, and especially the Germans. I'm going to use them because I know their language. I know German. They, if you look at the differences between German and English speakers in terms of things like, the question was, I think, do you think your own personal actions have an do you think you control your life? Basically, so I can't remember the specific question. It was like, are you influenced? Is it basically determinism versus like can you actually make an impact on your own life? The Germans were much lower on the scale than the English speakers were. Like
I think that's a lot more different factors than just language, though.
Okay, but I think language is what started that whole thing. Okay, so there's these things. For instance, Okay, so in German, a lot of times where we would be acting in English, the German is acted upon. For instance, I like this pipe. Die Pfeife gefällt mir. The pipe is appealing to me.
Yeah, no, I get you
I
by
think-
that. Yeah.
Or in Russian, possession. I have this shot glass. U меня есть, whatever the word for shot glass is. By me is the shot glass. To me is the shot glass. There's no active possession.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I think that has a very. I think when those are like the basic words you're saying like constant, like those are very common.
But I
usage.
think
Let me
Ben
say things
also
like
has a
that.
point that you have to realize why those words came about too, and that there's other factors to it than just.
Oh, of course, there's other factors
Yeah.
to how it developed.
I
That's
think
not what
you're
I'm
both
saying.
you're both absolutely right, though.
I'm saying, but whenever you're constantly thinking in this way that you're being acted upon instead of being the one acting, in a lot of situations where it's not that way in English, I think that naturally leads to you being more deterministic, to being more acted upon in life.
Do you think within a singular language that, like, regional differences that you can look at influence that? Then?
Well, I mean, probably. I don't know what you mean by that exactly.
Like, you have, like different dialects. Do you think that applies, like, on a smaller level as well to dialects, or do you think it's just like...
Oh, I'm sure it does. Russian is different, vastly different across the country.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
It's basically a different language. Well, certain things are different. A lot of it's the same. A lot of the basics are the same, though. The things that I'm talking about are constant, whether you're in Bavaria or Brandenburg. It's the basic vocabulary of I like, I have.
Okay.
Whereas And I think those are the ones that are going to impact you the most because they're the ones you're constantly saying. They're the most common things in vocabulary.
Yeah, I
in
don't see
grammar.
any argument here behalf. I think it's all. Yeah, that's pretty agreeable.
I think the first time we had this, you like the way you spelled it out to me. I didn't
I'm sure
quite
I did.
get it.
I'm sure I didn't say it nearly as clearly.
Which, I mean, it's like Mitch said, too. There are other things that kind of influence why the language is like that in the first place that may also have influenced certain ideas. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from for sure on, like, the way you say things having an effect on the way you think
You want to know
things.
some real shit? I did some study the other day about the first Bronze Age war.
Really?
Battle.
How
The
did that happen?
earliest one we know about is Troy, right?
No, this is like before that, almost prehistoric.
Really?
It happens in a river valley, by a river in Germany, right?
Okay. The Rhine?
Both sides.
It's always
No,
the
it's
Rhine.
not the Rhine. It was somewhere in central Germany near Hanover,
Okay.
I think. But it would happen by a river.
I lost interest.
They have one.
I'm just
this
kidding.
Is
I'm
the really
just kidding.
cool
Go
part.
ahead. Just kidding.
This
Go ahead.
was pre-recorded history shit.
Mhm.
So this changes a lot of what we know, but somewhere there was a big battle between 100 some, what we can guess to be something between like 100 some combatants versus another 100 some combatants that were using tools and weapons that were bladed, and they're fighting. And the biggest, coolest thing about it is that a lot of the wounds that some of the people had been healed over before that, which meant that they had fought many other different battles that were caused by other weapons by other humans. I just thought it was cool because it was like an organized conflict in pre-recorded history.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was an actual battle that was carried out, like, not like battle lines or formations or anything, but it was an actual battle carried out by a riverbed where there was dozens of dead on both sides.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, Troy was also prehistory.
Was it prehistory?
It was
Troy
passed down orally,
yeah.
but it
Troy
wasn't
was
written until like 2,000
prehistory
years
enough
after.
that they thought Troy didn't exist
Yeah.
until
Recently.
modern
I
times.
think it was in 1900s, or maybe mid-1800s.
Yeah, when they finally found the spot and they're like, "Oh shit,
This is
Troy."
And there's Achilles.
I'm talking about, like, this well, they definitely didn't have the technology that Troy apparently, or supposedly had at this battle, because this is stuff like,
It was
there
bronze.
was not people wearing leathers or anything. This was
Oh.
people wearing hide and using, like, stone axes and
Okay, yeah, that was pretty-
not atlatls.
God, Adelados are lit.
Not even using bows or anything. It was like stone, or like a stone spear tied to a stick, a stone edge.
Have you read Homer?
A little bit,
Alright.
not extensively.
I haven't used this nearly enough, but I love the whole how he describes most of like the warriors, like, you know how I don't. Well, he usually when warriors first introduced, or he comes in again to do battle or something like that, he'll go through like a long description of them. That's really cool. But all of them are like Achilles, who was good at the battle cry.
Oh yeah,
He sounds
badass. He screamed like a motherfucker.
He sounds like a wrestling promoter.
Pretty much, yeah. It's fucking awesome. I love
Hasn't
Homer.
Homer been shown though to not be a totally reliable narrator though?
Oh, absolutely.
The most reliable they have at the time. Though.
Yeah.
Reliable-
congratulations.
it's
But
Reliable
he's
enough to be
really
considered history.
Isn't he really
yeah.
the only one though?
He talked about the gods in the story. He's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
He's not
he's
uber
kinda-
reliable.
Oh, okay, but that's what I'm saying.
Well,
is
I mean,
he's not the
There's a
most
sex
reliable,
scene
right?
between Zeus and his Hera.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Hey,
not the most
I mean,
reliable.
like,
but-
we know for a fact that Herodotus bullshitted a lot too,
well,
but
yeah,
it's
Okay, I'm
it's
just
you
making
got to
sure,
you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it's still
because
the
I
best
don't pay
thing. we
attention
have.
to a lot of prehistory Greece.
yeah. There's a lot
I don't-
of embellishing occurring.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
don't
a lot
really
of it
start paying
comes
attention
from-
to Greece until like the Mycenaean Greeks.
Well, I mean, and then there's the whole thing of Odysseus, which is all just made up. But
Yeah, well,
it's
yeah.
it's
Well,
it's,
I
it's
would
an
hope
epic
so,
hero tale.
otherwise that's fucking
Yeah.
horrific. But my thing is if they
Harpies.
if they can embellish one thing that's obvious to us that was embellished, my problem is that kind of puts the whole entire story into doubt, just because
Well-
it's a part that we can see is more realistic.
Well, then
So
all
presented.
history, like short of the modern age.
Yeah,
falls
well,
into
it's
that
Well,
passed
yeah,
down
you
through
should doubt
story.
all modern.
Yeah.
You should doubt everything that is in modern history.
No, it's good enough. It basically, yeah.
If you have multiple sources that corroborate it.
Okay, yeah, multiple. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if there's multiple sources that corroborate, yeah. But like for instance, Catherine the Great. There for a long time, like until
All of the sources that corroborated her fucking a horse were some guy at a bar.
My
It was
point-
just a
my
different
point, that
bar
wasn't
every
until,
time.
like, the 1910s that stopped becoming like a popular idea.
Well, it didn't help that Russia, right after Catherine the Great, kind of took a shine to hating Catherine the Great. But
I remember Catherine really wasn't that bad either. I don't remember the specifics.
she's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's what I thought.
She was
She
alright. All things. She
She
did.
didn't just have sex.
Goddamn,
She
she did.
Okay.
She went in.
That's not usually what I
But-
pay attention to.
She also
Have you not read the fan fiction?
She also deleted Poland. So
Yeah.
Well, who hasn't? I mean, really,
no,
when it comes
like,
down to
no
it.
Poland left.
Yeah, the Russian Empire was at its greatest height under Catherine.
Yes.
Yeah. Catherine was one of the great...
She was
great
also
Russian
fairly
emperors.
humanitarian from what I remember.
She was
Fairly.
She was a little better than some of her predecessors.
Humanitarian.
The
Fairly.
Oh, she was
Yeah.
enlightened. She was an enlightened ruler.
The idea of the enlightened despot being Catherine the Great comes from the fact that she personally had a series of letters that went back and forth with like.
Well, I'm talking about more like
and-
from what I remember specifics more is that she like abolished the death penalty. She kind of reinstated it at a point.
That was the
But-
thing. She officially did a lot of things that didn't quite actually occur.
Okay, but that's still a first step
But
in my
the
opinion.
the like origin of that in its entirety comes from the fact that she was exchanging letters with a lot of Enlightenment thinkers, and they were saying that she was some
yeah.
big Enlightened ruler
see,
because she was also funding them. At
The
various
biggest thing that
points.
Catherine did to me is that she encouraged enlightenment amongst Russian nobility. To me, that's the most
Yeah.
important thing that she ever fucking
She also
did.
wrote a
besides
bunch of
deleting
really
Poland.
bad plays.
Yeah, she wrote awful plays.
Well, who has?
But she tried.
She was also like 60 years old and fucking.
You know what? I hope I'm still fucking when I'm
My
60.
thing is, she would fuck foreign dignitaries.
Me too.
Catherine did big things.
Literally.
Like a horse.
Literally. She didn't fuck a
Yeah,
horse.
I know. What she... It wasn't something probably like dysentery or something.
It was
Who
either
didn't
that
have
or like
dysentery?
some.
The problem is she
debilitating-
died on a chamber pot. She went the way of
The
Elvis.
Elvis. She did the
Presley.
Elvis. That's the way to go, man.
Yeah. But the popular theory was that she was finally done in by a huge stallion cock. Okay, let's.
And we are back from our short hiatus there. And Devin had to leave early. He works early in the morning. So what are we going to talk about now that Devin's gone? Payne, you know what? You're the quiet one. Give us a topic.
Anything, history, anything.
Yeah.
Mainly
How many
history.
dicks we've sucked? No, don't say that. Don't ask me that. No. Oh, Payne, no.
Anything.
Dead air, man. You gotta say something.
We'll
First
cut
thing that
this
comes
out
to
in
mind.
post. Don't worry.
No, I don't take anything out. I'm too lazy to do that shit.
Alright, what about, it's just a suggestion, you can deny it, because it might not be that big of a topic, but what about, since I'm getting into this right now, what about materialism versus spirituality? How does our society look right now?
I think our society is overly materialistic.
I mean, if you look at it, almost half of the Earth's population doesn't believe in a God, so the only God right now for capitalistic societies is the material.
Well, I think for any society without any sort of religion is material. That's what it comes down to. Without spirituality, it's pure materialism.
Yeah, the material is the God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no other way to do it. It's one or the other. And I think that's bad.
It's not a joke when people say humans killed God. Like, we killed God and replaced it with money. That's all that drives society anymore.
Well, I don't agree with that necessarily.
What do you think drives society other than profits? Forward. What drives society forward?
Drive society forward.
Profit. Why do we do anything in this world except for to advance ourselves?
If you look at the big picture, then maybe, but on the individual
I'm looking
level,
at the big picture.
well, on the individual level, it's much different. And
Well,
society is
yeah,
comprised of
individually
division.
level, it's always giving.
If you're looking at the major actors, then yes, profit. But I don't think society is necessarily
That's-
pushed forward by the major actors.
Well, when you look at what controls the majority of the world's profits and the majority of the world's wealth and everything, it is what drives it.
Well, again, but you're looking purely material. I think there's more that drives us than just profit. I don't
Well,
think
yeah,
that's what I'm
individual
saying.
based, yeah, there's always going to be different motivations and everything, but what drives the world stage and what drives the majority of wealth being moved and everything is profit.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you look at progress in terms of wealth, then of course it's going to be materialism. Of course it's going to be profit. I'm saying there's other things than that to use as a metric for how society is
There's
progressing.
constantly people moving to different jobs, though, to make more money. There's constantly people doing different things to make more money and to advance themselves and to build up wealth.
Yes, but I'm saying you're starting from the presupposition that progress is an increase in overall wealth, which
well,
I'm
what
saying
allows
is,
someone to do more than what they normally would be able to do? It's wealth.
I'm not, but that's not what I consider progress necessarily. That's what I'm
Well, if
saying.
I want to be
I'm saying we
able
have a different metric for measuring progress.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay,
The
Payne, you
majority
talk.
of society seems to be materialistic, though.
Yes, it is, and I think it's a bad thing in general.
Yes, it is, because it only tries... Yeah, never mind.
Fine.
There's another topic, eh?
Yeah. It's a lot
How about
easier
the
to...
historical fact.
We go through things a lot quicker when Devin's not around. A lot less disagreement.
I think Devin plays devil's advocate to play devil's advocate sometimes, so...
I don't think so. I think he genuinely believes most of what he says. I think he's wrong about a lot of it, but I think he genuinely believes it.
I think...
And I think he's well thought out on
is that Devin wants conversation to be there, and first and foremost, and I think he will more quickly try to find a hole in your argument and take that up than he will realize what you're saying sometimes.
Oh, well, yeah, I think we all do that to a certain
Well,
extent.
yeah, we all want to create conversation and everything,
Yeah.
criticism and everything.
Mm.
I'm just saying, Devin, I don't do that very much, and Payne definitely doesn't do that very much.
Oh, I think you do it. Payne doesn't talk, so of course he doesn't do it. I think me and you both do that, though. I see you do it.
I agree with you more than I do with Devin.
Depends on the topic. I've been actually surprised how much you agree with Devin on certain things.
But how much Devin agrees with me. I don't agree with Devin that much when he says something. Devin agrees with me a lot.
I don't know. I'd have to hear that. It's very topic.
At least going off the whole podcast.
Maybe. I have to listen back again. Okay, Payne, new topic. What do you got?
Give me a subject.
No, that's what you're doing. That's your
I didn't
job.
say topics. Okay, history. Let's see.
That's something I'm best at, and I can actually say stuff about.
All right, French Revolution.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What about it?
I don't know. You tell me.
It's fucking. It was the worst. One of the worst things that ever happened.
The first one?
What do you know that first one?
Napoleon.
Okay, then yes, yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the second one where Napoleon III or whatever was.
Oh yeah, I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah, surprisingly, not a lot of people did.
Yeah, okay, I was just making sure. I didn't even consider that when that's why I was wondering what you meant. Okay.
I think it was an important part in European history. That being said, I think it is the biggest shit show Europe has ever had internally.
Definitely one of.
Well, like internal to a nation.
Oh, then yes.
Not
definitely
Europe as a whole. Like internal for a singular European nation is the biggest shit show a nation has ever had internally. Besides maybe the Russian Revolution.
You mean like 1917? Was that the one you're talking about?
The October Revolution.
Yeah, the October. Okay. No, I agree. The French Revolution was awful, and I think honestly, we might disagree on why. If you look at the Scottish/English Enlightenment, you see this what is generally referred to as the blending of Athens and Jerusalem, the combination of religion and science together, religion and intelligence. What am I looking for? The spiritual and the physical combined. Athens is
it's
the
reason
enlightened.
and religion.
Reason. That's the word I was looking. Reason.
Reason and religion.
Reason being
that was
Athens.
The whole thing
Yes.
of the
Yes. Reason being Athens. Jerusalem being religion. The spirituality. This combination of the two, and English/Scottish. In French, it's pure reason, and it leads down a dark path.
You can see, like, in actual records what it led to, because, like, it was pretty extreme in the way of reason.
Yes.
To the point where it hurt society
Mm-hmm.
and it hurt the average person. That being said, I think Napoleon took a fucking awful situation and made it better in all honesty, Napoleon didn't give a fuck about the revolution. He took advantage of a power vacuum and instated himself.
Yes.
That's what it came down to. Napoleon had he did not care about religion, he didn't care about enlightenment, he was power hungry, what it came down to. And you can only say he was a genius in the way he's able to take power and what he is able to do.
He was a genius in terms of not really even a political actor, more just as a military
he was
actor.
awful politically.
Yeah, in terms of like military, he was a very
That's my
very
thing.
good general.
Napoleon for the time was the best military strategist. Not necessarily no tactician. He was still pretty good. I would say he's probably a better tactician than he was a strategist, but I mean he was awful politically. But he used his power and his ability to get the press on his side to take power and advance France.
Yes.
Even though he took it down a pretty fucking rough route that always made sure France would be a second-tier power in Europe.
Yeah, see, okay, so the thing is, what kind of started with, I don't think you can derive an ought from an is. I don't think you can derive a morality from science. Science cannot teach you morality. I cannot look at the physical world and therefore, from a purely physical standpoint, come upon how I should act in that world. I don't think that's possible. I think that's what the French Enlightenment did. That's one. Real quick, I'm sure I'll get into this when Devin is here.
Yeah, I don't want to get into this when Devin's not here.
Well, I won't do it. It'll be quick. There's this thing where in the Old Testament it took God 3 different attempts to instill morality in man. The original was Cain and Abel / Adam and Eve. What happened?
I say it's Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel,
and Cain immediately kills Abel.
and
That was
Moloch and everything, right? And all the idols.
That's not what I was going to say. That does happen. I was going to actually. The first one was deriving morality purely from a human being standpoint, purely from what Devin would call empathy, in my opinion. It doesn't work. What happens immediately is Cain kills Abel. It's in some ways symbolic, but it's true in a symbolic way. You can't, from the purely physical world, derive an ought from an is. Now, the second step was giving a very base set of laws without anything really without anything actually pushing it forward. That was the laws of Noah. There was no nation to act. There was no group of people to specifically advocate for these laws. It was just like, here's these laws. Go at it for all of humanity. It didn't work. It eventually devolves into tyranny again. The third step was the 10 Commandments, was the nation of Israel. That worked because there was a specific nation, a specific group of people actually pushing forward these laws and advocating for them. What you need is a group of people.
What you're seemingly calling for is a strong authoritarian government that has one set of unified ideals.
No, it's not at all what I'm calling for. I'm saying, you're taking me a couple, maybe, I can see where you could get there, but that's not, I'm going way more steps back than that. That's way ahead of what I'm talking about.
But every time in humanity ever had its own choice or free will in the Bible, that was the biggest thing, is that free will normally led to deviation from the Bible. And they were always punished for it.
No, not free will, acting against the base morality of God.
But that's the point of free will, though, is being able to do that.
The point of free will isn't being able to murder somebody. Now, having the ability, yes, but that doesn't mean it's good just because you have the ability to do it. That's what I'm saying. Free will is being able to have the choice to act in the good way. Being able to act for the good. It's not good if you don't have the choice to act for the good. It's just you being a robot. That's why free will must exist, for there to be a good God. For there to be a God who gave us free will, we must be able to act freely to exercise our good for the higher purpose.
The thing is that at this point in civilization, no matter what our morals ever derive for, man is its own God at this point.
I disagree. Man was his own God in Soviet Union, in Nazi Germany. There was no...
Man is his own God in the United States now. And when people
yes, and I think things are going downhill.
Every single day,
yes, and I don't think it's leading towards the good. That's what I'm getting at.
My point is a diverse society like the United States, you're never going to have God being the center point of it. Only in homogenous states like Denmark or Norway or something are you going to be exerting something like that.
I disagree. Because religion steps beyond racial boundaries. That's one of the things I think religion did so much better than anything else, is that, especially Christianity, is you have to have something to unite yourselves around. That's just kind of how humanity works.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why missionaries were the first ones put on the boat whenever we discovered the New World. Mm-hmm. Because it's easier to unite people through religion than any other type of thing.
Because if you unite yourself through nationality, then there's people outside of that. If you unite yourself through race...
So religion was used to control people.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
That's why it was used to control people's thought. And
yes, good things can be used. Good things can be used badly, of course. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is
control necessarily isn't always bad. Control has been needed, but religion has always been used as a controlling force against people that are deviant from the main force.
Okay, yes, that is true, but that's not what I'm getting at. I'm saying that we have to have something to unite ourselves under, just as human beings. We have to have something that says this is what we are.
The problem is that individualism is too strong for that to ever be viable again, unless something drastically different happens. There's too much thought put on the individual rather than society or us as a whole.
I think that is true to a certain extent, but I think that can be altered. I don't think that's a set in stone.
Well, you can see people tend more towards radicalism than centralism, which is a byproduct of individualism.
I don't think that follows. I think it's actually almost the opposite. People tend to gravitate towards those extremes because there is a very strong group at those extremes that they can unite under. The center is muddy. The center is muddled, and it's not coherently defined. The outsides are very coherently defined.
Look at what the mainstream left and the alt-right plays to. They play towards the fact that you as an individual, you're white, you're okay. It's okay to be white. We're playing towards that you are under attack as an individual for being a straight white male.
No, it's much more the group is being
the left
attacked.
is saying you need to be.
No, it's much more whites are being attacked. It's much more the lower class are being attacked. It's
The
groups.
thing is that
It's
the
not
individual
individual.
is the biggest thing in society now. That's almost inarguable fact that being an individualist and being an individual is the biggest part of society.
I agree with that. I just don't think it's the extremes
The
that are
problem
advocating.
is that when individualism is the primary thing, is that it's hard to unite anyone or anything under a unified code of ethics like this.
It is hard. I agree. I don't know if it'll happen. I'm just saying that it's not impossible.
And that's where it's come to that man is his own god now at this point. Because every man is his own god.
In terms of actuality, yes, I don't think that's a good thing, is what I'm saying. Practically, I think that's correct. I think that is what's happening.
That looking back in the past, almost inarguably historical precedent, religion has been used by certain governments as forms of control over the populace.
Yes, that's true, but that doesn't make religion
bad
in and of
view
itself.
religion in a bad taste, no matter what. It's been used as a form of... More modernly, you can see where it's been used as a form of repression more than as a form of enlightenment. And I think that's what religion's main problem is that it's been trying to repress people's urges rather than enlightening them.
Well, I disagree. I mean, I disagree to an extent. Look at all the scientists. Look at all the people who, and especially the Enlightenment stuff.
The problem is that most scientists that made major discoveries were looking for evidence of God and then realized that there doesn't need to be a God and turn atheists.
No, that's not at all how it happens. Darwin struggled intensely to actually work his theory of evolution into the Bible. It wasn't that he turned atheist.
And guess what? It didn't apply. It could have applied.
It very easily
outside
applies.
Of it.
I believe in evolution. I'm very much a Christian. It could very easily
it's an
apply.
inarguable fact that evolution exists. Mm-hmm. You can see species changing over time to their environment. That's what evolution is.
Well, that's adaptation. That's not quite the same.
It's pretty much one and the same.
Not
in the way that Charles Darwin.
No, because evolution is a species, a separate species deriving from another species. That's different. Adaptation is not the same.
Religion went from being this enlightening kind of like trying to teach people how to live and everything. It went from the Enlightenment to now all it's trying to do with the information age is trying to repress people from making open information decisions. Is what's happening. Women are like Mennonites, for instance, are constantly trying to tell women you only marry a Mennonite. You can't do anything outside of Mennonitism. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do this. Mm-hmm. And religion is seen as a form of repression because of the way progress in the information age is viewed. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, religion is always going to be viewed as evil in the same way the government is viewed as evil because of how the government in the past have been trying to use religion as a form of oppression. Or not oppression.
See, I don't think that's...
Trying to unite.
Again, I don't think that falls. You're actually seeing a resurgence of Christianity in this modern age. Because people are coming back to it. Because they realize that...
This is the highest the population in the world has ever been an atheist.
You're right, but I'm saying that trend is changing. It's not nearly as strong as it was before in terms of
growth.
Right.
The United States is the most religious country there is right now.
Yes, but I'm saying even then, I'm saying across the world, the trend is turning. It's not what it was.
The trend is still going up to atheist. Estonia is 96% going on 98% atheist. Poland is going up atheist. Germany is definitely...
No, the trend is still going up. I'm not saying it's dropped down. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it is leveling.
For the last 10 years.
I know that. I'm not saying it's suddenly reversing. I'm saying it's slowing down and it's slowly going to reverse. I'm seeing more and more people shift the other way.
The problem is that religion, the way it's being used modernly by people that practice religion, is a means of control. And means of shaming people.
Not at all.
I can tell you 10 different people I know right now that were told not to do certain things or repressed because of religion.
Okay, saying not to do something does not equal oppression.
You're right. What I'm saying is that the way people right now that are practicing religion or are religious, a lot of people are using it as a way to keep their children from doing certain things and doing from certain sins that they deem sinful. The way I view religion is not that way where you're told you can't do something because God said so. The way I view it is this is the right way to live your life because this is what God set forth and this is the righteous way to live your life. Too often are kids punished by their religious parents because they're not living the life they want to. That doesn't make them inherently sinful. The whole entire point of the prodigal son is that he was He went out and he lived a wrong life, and he came back eventually once he learned everything that was wrong with the world. That's the whole entire point. You don't use religion.
No. He learned everything that was wrong with himself, not with the world.
Okay.
That's a completely different thing. He learned everything that was wrong with himself. He saw what he was doing wrong.
Repression and sheltering someone is not the right way to treat religion.
I completely agree.
That's not the way I see religion.
I could see how it would be like that in the 90s and early 2000s. It's not that. I don't think it's that way today at all.
Well, now since the world has opened up more, yes. But the way that our parents taught us, the parents that people at our age, probably not Payne's age so much, people around from the 21 to the 30 mark were treated that way.
Mm-hmm. No, I could see that, and that I think that is a big problem. Though I think it was a mistake. I think it was very much a mistake. But I don't think that
religion is viewed in very bad taste now.
I just don't think that's going to hold true forever. I think that will change fairly soon.
I really hope it changes too, because what I ultimately view religion as, if nothing more than its basis, is that it's a good way to live by. And people that are spiritually happy are the happiest people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good way to live your life. And I think that will always be a good way to live your life, because always attribute yourself, even if you're not even if you believe that God actually exists, and you're just living by the teachings of the Bible, it's a good way to live, and it's a righteous way to live, and it's a way that, if you live by that, you'll have typically a successful life, or at least a happy life, which is very hard to find nowadays, especially with the way the economy and everything is expanding and globalization is happening. It's a very nice way to find happiness.
Yes.
That being said, traditionally with our people that were kids when we were our age, it was used as a way to prevent us from doing certain things. Like, for instance, watching Harry Potter because it is magic and everything. That's
very few people actually.
I know a majority of people.
I know some people
Hayden
too. I know some people too.
And
that's ridiculous. I agree with that. That's ridiculous.
The problem is I know a lot more people. I know a lot of people that happen to. And the problem is that it doesn't matter how often it happens. It's the fact that it does happen.
No, I don't think that's a good argument.
The problem is that someone's going to go to school and tell someone, I didn't watch Harry Potter because my parents are super religious, and everyone's going to have bad taste in religion in their mouth.
No, that's exactly right. That's the whole. There's this the fourth commandment is do not carry the name of the Lord in vain. It's the whole do not commit bad acts in the name of the Lord, because it turns people off from religion. It's the one sin that won't be forgiven in the Bible. It's the one sin that He says He will not forgive, is to carry the name of the Lord in vain. I think that's what it is. It's that if you act wrongly in the name of the Lord, it turns people away from the Lord. I completely agree with that. It turns people away from God. Yes.
Yes, I think that's what I'm saying, is that the way some people use religion, which unfortunately when something is used in a bad way, it's often the most vocal.
Yes.
That it turns people off to religion. I see religion as a very... Christianity, when it comes down to it, I'm never going to be opposed to anything that teaches people to act in the right way and act in a righteous way. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to be against something like that. Even as myself, I'm irreligious. Mm-hmm. Because I think that something like Christianity and its teachings are very good to teach to people. I think everyone should read the Bible. Mm-hmm. The Bible should be read by everyone at least a few times to fully understand it. The Bible is probably the book I've read the most, but I'm irreligious. Mm-hmm. That being said, the way it's used to throw the fucking book at some people is fucking ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, people that are fucking naturally left-handed are fucking demonized by the Catholic Church. Still.
Not anymore. No, not anymore.
I know someone that's fucking 17 that went to a Catholic church when he was a kid and that was demonized.
That was more my grandma's age.
A ruler was slapped on his left hand every time he
wrote left-handed. Fucking Catholic school is ridiculous. I agree with that.
Yes. That's what I'm saying, is when these arbitrary fucking standards are met, you're suddenly this punished individual and you're sinning and you're bad in the eyes of the Lord. People don't want to give up their individualism to please some God. Mm-hmm. Because that's how important individualism is now.
Well, there is a problem. Well, I think it's actually reversed. There's more and more people coming out who actually have a nuanced view of Christianity that it's actually, I think, much more accurate to the original people.
The problem is that a lot of those people are people that were Christian, raised Christian. There's a large portion of these people that are turned-again Christians that were raised Christian, became irreligious, and then found Christianity again on their own terms.
Yes.
There is a large portion of the newly found Christian movement and everything that came and found Christianity on their own terms and not what their parents taught them.
Yes, I agree.
Which only gives more to the fact that our previous generations shoved it down our throats in a way that was not palpable and not in a way that was right.
No, I completely. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying we're slowly overcoming that. I think that's a good thing. Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
There was definitely a stain upon Christianity was done to it by the past couple generations. I agree. It's been tough to overcome, but I think we are overcoming it. I do think we are. I think it's getting better. There's a lot more, much better thought out Christian thinkers out, Christian and Hebrew thinkers out there than I think there were a couple generations ago, or at least they're a lot more vocal and well known now.
I agree. Yes. My thing is with Christianity is that mainly our previous generations have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
Generation Y, isn't it? Yeah, Generation Y. The one before us.
Are we technically millennials? Is that right?
Yeah, we're
technically millennials. Okay, that's right. Yeah,
millennials are anywhere right now from 22 until 33.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Your Generation Z.
You're the
oldest one. Yeah.
You're the hope of the future.
But Generation Y is before us, correct? Or is it Generation
They're
X?
between us and the boomers. No, they're between us and X. That's right.
Okay,
no, yeah, they're between us and
Generation X is okay. Generation Y and the boomers are what the problem is. Because, I mean, if you really want to fucking... There's a lot of reasons why they're fucking wrong and everything. But they were on the bad receiving end of the technological revolution. And so everything has been a traditionalist fight to fight the new kids to be a certain way. Whereas millennial parents nowadays are a lot more open to ideas.
Yeah.
Because of what they were put through.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The information age has made traditionalists more hardline and made progressive also more hardline than ever before. And the only other time you could say there would be a more hardline progressive generation would be like 1848 in Germany and mainland Europe during the liberal revolution.
Okay, so bring Payne in here, Mitchell. Give us a topic. Let's go.
1 second.
Okay. Go ahead. Just go. Me and Payne will talk while you're doing your thing. So, Payne. Yeah. Words, I guess. Is Mitchell, you ready? No, he's still drinking. Okay, let's give him a couple more words. More words to Payne.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Mitchell's ready. Yeah.
What's your opinion on the prohibition?
You mean like the alcohol prohibition?
Yeah, 1930s. In the temperance movement.
I mean, it didn't do great things.
So would you say that the drug war in America also has some parallels to prohibition?
No. Well, it has some, yes.
For lighter drugs.
But, yeah.
Drugs are a different beast than alcohol.
Yes.
I guess, we talked about this before, but it's on a separate thing. So go ahead and give us your, I guess, base opinion on drug use.
The drug war.
Or the war on drugs, whichever.
Yeah, the war on drugs is what opinion I'm mainly on.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't like it. I mean,
come on,
I wouldn't
now.
do drugs myself, and drugs that'll harm your life aren't good. And to me,
like meth and things like meth.
Yes, and so
weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I were running a society, I wouldn't want drugs in that society. So I would.
But do you not agree that people should be able to make their own decision?
I agree with that to a certain extent, but when it comes to harming your life,
something like meth, where it's extremely addictive and not only simultaneously, it's also extremely destructive.
Well, yes, exactly.
Something like that needs to be controlled, right?
Yes.
But something like weed, where it's not all that addictive and potentially right now is viewed as a low harm drug. What are your opinions on that?
That's fine, as long as it's not harming, as long as it's not extremely addicting.
Well, about something like, so what you see it as is something that's addictive and also harmful needs to be regulated.
Yes,
I agree with that.
But it depends. Like cigarettes, I don't want to ban cigarettes. That's fine.
That's something that's extremely harmful and addictive, though.
Yeah, but it's not like that's true, but it's not like extremely addictive. It's not.
It's pretty addictive.
Yeah,
No. I didn't mean to say that. I mean,
it's not as
like
addictive as meth or heroin. I will give you that. But
right.
it is
no,
right up there, right underneath it. It is also harmful because the amount of damage that can be caused by cigarettes is irreversible damage.
Right, but it's not like a snap of a finger, a couple weeks and you're dead. It's not like that.
Well, isn't harm no matter how long it takes?
No.
Well, if something's extremely addictive, someone's going to be using it for a long period of time.
It's true.
Shouldn't cigarettes be outlawed in the same way?
Cigarettes, you die when you're like 60 or 70. Heroin, meth, you die when you're like 40.
It still does irreversible damage to you.
That's true.
So shouldn't it be regulated the same way that meth and heroin are? Just because it acts slower, shouldn't it be regulated?
No.
Because there's some.
Because in that period of time, you have the choice to quit.
If it's addictive, it removes choice.
Not as addictive as heroin.
Nicotine is extremely addictive.
That's true, but you can still quit cigarettes.
For instance, I've stopped smoking cigarettes and extremely addictive, and I want to smoke.
You want to smoke? Stopped. You want to smoke? But it's not
okay, for the podcast or anything, whether this is going to be removed or not, I smoke weed and I smoke cigarettes. Right now, smoking both, I want a fucking cigarette more than anything right now that I'm doing. It's more addictive than alcohol, and it's illegal. And it also destroys your body in irreversible ways. Even if you quit 5 years later, you destroyed your body. I can't breathe underwater. I can't hold my breath underwater.
Could you breathe underwater before this?
I can't hold my breath under longer as long as people that have never smoked cigarettes because I smoke cigarettes and I destroyed these nasal passages in my nose and I can't hold my breath as long. I've irreversibly damaged my lungs just for smoking in the last 4 years. Don't you think? If you're giving people the decision, if it's up to someone's decision, why wouldn't you legalize everything?
To me, it's more about...
I'm not trying to combat you.
I know.
Provoke
it's
thought.
more about how harmful it is, how addictive it is.
I mean, if you're looking at pure statistics, cigarettes damage more people per year than any other drug. They destroy more lives per year than any other drug does.
They're legal.
Exactly.
I could probably buy them. I'm not even 18.
Yeah.
I can probably go to a convenience store right now. They wouldn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't.
But it's extremely destructive, and it kills more people per year than any other drug, does it not?
Yeah, but let's say I have smoking cigarettes. I probably wouldn't get addicted as easily as heroin or meth.
You would still get addicted very hard over time. Just because you're one step below doesn't make it any less worse.
But here's the thing. If I had access to meth or heroin, and I smoked that shit, then I would be very addicted. I'd be very harmed by that. More instantly than any cigarette that I would smoke.
Where is it too far?
I don't really know the exact
because
mark
time
to put it at.
Time shouldn't be an argument. It shouldn't be if your body's shorter than 5 years.
Actually, I disagree with that because you have more time to actually fix it. If you're going to take a drug, if you're going to take something like
truly have time if you're highly addictive.
Yes, because lots of people quit smoking every year. I think it's a lot harder to quit something like heroin or meth.
People only quit smoking because of education against it and because it's legalized.
No,
there's a reason why everything on cigarette boxes tell you to stop smoking.
And I don't think that stopped anybody. I really don't.
You're right. We haven't, but eventually, like me, I've learned, hey, maybe I should stop because I see the damage on my body, and also because I see the statistics.
That again, and that's again. No, I don't think it's the statistics. I think it's the time. I think you have time. You slowly see the damage to your body, and that gives you more incentive to quit.
Do you not see the damage? Meth doesn't kill you within 5 years. There's meth users out there that use it for 30 years and are just fine. Mm-hmm. My thing is isn't it better to regulate something legalized and to regulate it and educate? The campaign against tobacco has been so large that there's people that were 13 back when there's people that were 13 back in the 1940s that were smoking cigarettes and thought there was nothing wrong with it. And now there's parents that are more against cigarettes than they are against weed now.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
And because we've been able to regulate it and legalize it, and we've learned all these things about it. But keeping something illegal and not being able to test it in a lab and learn.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying. You said that time shouldn't have an impact. I'm saying it should.
My thing is that time should be irrelevant due to harmful effects. It shouldn't matter if something takes 5 years or 60 years. It's still just as harmful.
No, because if you take something like crocodile and your skin is melting off your flesh,
crocodile is a whole.
So time does have an impact. Okay, but what I'm saying, so therefore time does have an impact.
Okay, crocodile is illegal for a reason. That being said, it needs to be studied, like everything. The problem is that when something is legal, it's not studied, and it's not put in a test tube, and it's not universally. Like for instance. When people started reporting higher rates of lung cancer from cigarette and tobacco companies, started being studied very, very heavily. People now know. Do you know a single person that smokes cigarettes and actually tells you, like, hey, you should smoke cigarettes? every single person that smokes cigarettes, when you're all like, no, I'm quitting, I don't want to smoke, tells you congratulations. There's not a single person that smokes cigarettes and tries to get you to smoke cigarettes and gets mad when you won't. There's a very small number. There is a very...
Those people are assholes if they exist. They're terrible people.
Yeah. Like, when Brian told me he was smoking, every single time he told me he stopped smoking, I'm like, hey, congratulations. Even though I smoked regularly. And I just now recently quit. That's my thing, is that the campaign against tobacco, because it's been legal, and what we've been able to do with it on the government scale in testing it and showing the public what it does, has allowed us to tell the public just how bad it is.
I just realized we let the libertarian hijack this and turn it into a drug podcast. As they tend to do.
But my thing is that people who do meth that are in high poverty areas see meth as an escape, and they don't truly... They can see what meth has done to older people in the community. They don't truly understand what it will do to them until... I'm not saying we should sell fucking boxes of meth in the liquor store or at the gas station or something that has printed Surgeon's warning. Yeah. Surgeon General's warning, this will fucking cause you to die in 5 years. I'm not saying we should have that. What I'm saying is, the best way to control something isn't to fucking fight it in the year of 2019, is to regulate it.
I don't think any of us necessarily disagree with that. Well, Payne.
Yeah, but I want to know what Payne has to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay, good. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
But that's what I'm saying. The war on drugs is just... If nicotine should be allowed, as highly addictive as it is, but we regulate it, should we not try to regulate harder, more harmful drugs and try to teach the populace what's wrong?
See, I don't...
If
My
we
problem
don't
is comparing it to nicotine is not...
My
First
thing
of
is-
all, nicotine in and of itself is actually good for you. It's the cigarettes that are bad. Nicotine
Yes.
actually... So I don't think... First of all, we need to
Nicotine
get
in
away
itself
from
is not
nicotine.
bad. It's yes.
We need to get away from nicotine real quick. But if we want to talk tobacco smoke that you're inhaling, then I agree. Because there's a lot of other extra shit and that's bad. Even the smoke itself is bad. But there's a lot of other shit that makes it even
The
worse.
thing is that when the anti-tobacco campaigns took hold, it took 45 years before they started seeing a real hardcore downwards trend to tobacco use. Should we not set up future generations to, even if we don't see an improvement in the next 10 to 20 years, should we not set up future generations to succeed so they don't turn to those drugs? I'm not saying to make meth available in every fucking corner store so that they can obtain it legally. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to regulate it more and stop fighting it as hard and going to all these South American countries and doing all these drug busts and everything. Because all that's doing is driving the need for it up more and the demand up for it. Which that's all we've seen with the war on drugs, is that demand for these drugs that we've caused the war on drugs for to skyrocket. They've only skyrocketed since the war on drugs has happened.
Alright, I know I agree with most of that. There's very few exceptions that I have to that. Sorry, I've got my pipe in my mouth. Tobacco pipe, by the way, not marijuana.
But that's my thing, like I smoke marijuana. Unfortunately, in the state that we're in, it's illegal right now, except for medical. But
So it's medical, for the sake of the podcast.
yeah,
right?
it's medical. For the
Okay,
sake of the podcast.
okay, thank you.
But that's my thing, is it's regulated. We're able to regulate it and we're able to control it. Stuff like meth is a little bit of gray area because meth, crocodile, first of all, I don't know of any places outside of Russia that's heavily used.
The Ukraine is heavily... Well, it's still Eastern Europe.
Sorry,
whatever.
ex-Soviet Union.
Well,
I don't know any places
okay, then
that's
fair,
heavily used.
I agree with that. That's fine.
Crocodile's probably the most destructive fucking thing on this planet. I don't understand how people can do it.
Well, my reason for bringing up crocodile is because you said time shouldn't have an impact. I'm saying it does.
Okay.
Because crocodile is so
my thing
quick.
is, I view crocodile as a unique situation because that is literally killing yourself within 2 years of using that drug.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we see people who've used meth for 20 years still alive. My thing is where's the cutoff point? Where do we say this is strictly illegal, whereas we don't want to regulate it?
Well, real quick.
Where do we want to regulate it, whereas where do we want to completely outlaw it and declare war on drugs on it?
Well, real quick.
Because declaring war on drugs on cocaine, weed, all these other drugs seems like a fool's errand, does it not?
Well, real quick, I think I agree with you on every case except for There are certain drugs that have externalities, PCP, bath salts, that turn you violent on turns a lot of people violent, and that causes them to go out and do terrible things with people, and they're very hard to stop when they're high on that shit.
Well,
I
would
think
not
they
be better
have.
if we were able to regulate these substances and say this is a substance, this is what needs to be in this substance. It's like with weed, how THC has skyrocketed and CBD has downgraded, and it's causing more cases of schizophrenia. It's causing more cases of psychosis. Wouldn't it make more sense if we were able to regulate that and say this is how much CBD you need to have in it? Because CBD directly counteracts the THC content. CBD actually helps your mental state, whereas THC encourages psychosis.
Okay, but that's in weed. I don't think there is a form of PCP that doesn't turn you violent, that I'm aware of.
Then the thing is that there's not enough testing to be done to say definitely, though.
Okay, how are you going to test? I don't see a good way to test
By being
something
able
like
to
that.
legally recreate it in a lab and study it, which we can't with the war on drugs. It should be legal for universities to sit there and take a drug like PCP or meth and study it in those situations. The only thing that's been allowed in some cases is cocaine, which amazingly cocaine comes from a
No,
natural plant.
psilocybin, DMT, I think has some tests. There's been others, like mainly
But
psychedelics, that
nothing
have
like
some.
we need to study more on meth. Meth is so region based on what's in it right now that there is no wholesale content for it. It's something that if we were able to study and regulate and be all like, hey, if you're gonna do meth, this is it's just like the California where no, I think it's the Netherlands. Where if you're caught using weed, they did not arrest you, but what was done is you were asked to participate in a rehabilitation program where they taught you everything that is wrong with using weed. What it could cause potentially problems with you. You were asked voluntarily. Basically, police officers, when they show up to your resident, if your neighbors reported that they smell a lot of weed smell, they'd show up and they'd give you pamphlets and say, we strongly encourage you to try to seek rehabilitation and see what this drug can do negatively to you. I think that decriminalization of drugs is important, except for like crocodile, because crocodile's just...
Oh, again,
Crocodile's fucking
PCP and
crazy.
bath salts, I think, are another two.
PCP is pretty hard. But my thing is that the government does a lot of things wrong, but what it does do right is that it will regulate something to fucking hell and back. And it will make sure that thing is regulated. Whereas keeping something illegal, the government is fucking horrific at, or otherwise I wouldn't be able to go down to a fucking corner on the college and be able to buy weed in Mexico. They're horrible at keeping things illegal. They're great at regulating things through the proper channel. And that's what I'm trying to stress to you. Because look what we've been able to do with nicotine. We made it where, very rarely now anyways, like back when I was a kid even, I very rarely saw people under 18 smoking cigarettes, and even now I see even less people smoking cigarettes under 18. Even for the fact, even if they could get them, a lot of them don't smoke it because they see it as unhealthy. And they see it as completely destructive, and people don't see a use for it. More than ever now. People are smoking cigarettes less and less every day because of education and the regulation we've been able to employ against it. I think our generation right now is the highest tobacco smokers right now. Millennials smoke more cigarettes than any other generation alive right now.
That's probably, I mean, I don't know for sure, but that sounds like it's probably right.
We're definitely the most social smokers at the very least.
Yes, that's probably, I would be surprised.
Whereas
that
Gen
would be
Z
the
right
case.
now, even though you guys are extremely young, you don't smoke as many cigarettes as millennials did when we were your age. You don't seek it out nearly as much because re-education works that well.
I think it's too early to say that. There's not enough studies on Gen Z yet, I think, to really make accurate claims about...
Well, then even going back, we smoke less cigarettes than Gen Z Y did.
No, yeah, it's gone down. No, it definitely has gone down. There's been a trend downwards in terms of cigarette smoking. I agree with that.
And that's what I'm saying, is regulation not an important part of re-education of people. Because sitting there and making some fucking 5th grader sign a thing that says, I will not do drugs ever, is not an effective way of doing things. That's not effective. Teaching people telling someone that smokes cigarettes that you have a 60% more chance of having lung cancer than the average person, and that I've seen people die that could have lived 30 more years die from lung cancer and not be able to see their great-grandchildren or see anything that they can do. And the only people I've seen die hard by cigarettes say is, well, you gotta die from something. To the point where even they agree that cigarettes are fucking killing them.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Whereas people on meth, that never enters their head. That doesn't enter their head. They're not educated. They see the government outlaws it, and it's always a fight for them. It's always some type of, like, fight. And they have to constantly be fighting it. Whereas regulation and education, if we can tell someone that's on meth exactly what it's doing to their body and everything, I'm not saying within 10 years it'll help, or even within 20 years it will help, but somewhere down the line, their great-grandchild, if they're able to have one, will benefit from the education.
No, I agree with pretty much all of that, except for I think there are very fringe cases, like I said, BCP, crocodile, and bath salts.
Crocodile is a little too much. That is like the worst drug ever.
It's terrifying. I don't understand it.
Well, explain it to Payne.
Have you ever seen crocodile?
See what it does.
You've seen like the skin, like you see the bone.
Yeah,
yeah, that's
crocodile is fucking crazy.
What does it do to you, like psychologically?
Psychologically, I don't know if it does that. Well, of course, most hard drugs do.
I don't mean.
Well, I mean, it like kills your endorphins almost instantly. Where after the second use, you cannot experience any endorphin use until you use crocodile.
No. I mean, like, this is gonna sound wrong, but I mean, like, what good do you feel from it? You know what I mean?
You get the rush. I think it's closer to heroin.
Oh, is it?
I don't remember. I've watched some documentaries on it. I think it's closer to heroin.
My thing is that not a high percentage of those Eastern European nations actually use it, right, compared to meth? Because I know meth is probably in higher use in Eastern European nations than...
I think meth is very much a U.S. thing, from what I understand.
Oh.
I think I'm sure it exists elsewhere, but crocodile is very popular
The thing is that
in the former
out
USSR.
Out of all the drugs, crocodile is one of the only ones that degenerate your brain tissue. And that's fucking rough.
Meth does.
Well, meth and crocodile are almost in the same vein in their construction.
They're very similar.
Yeah.
Bath salts, I believe, do. There are lots of shitty drugs that fuck you up.
My thing is that regulation of a certain drug or substance has been proven to be useful. And our education in society, even if it doesn't benefit us immediately, benefits us down the line. People that waged the war on tobacco 55 years earlier are not alive to see its effects today. It's what we're able to do for a generation later what matters. Because we're obviously not going to fix the meth problem or the heroin problem immediately right now. And
not unless we kill them all.
What'd you say?
What?
What'd you say?
Not unless we kill them all.
But we're not in the Philippines, so...
Well, that's a problem. that's where we go wrong.
Heroin now. You can see education pamphlets just like, don't share needles. Don't do it. Well, I mean,
no,
serious.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
That we try, like, we can't stop people from doing this drug, so at least educate them that what they're doing is harmful. Which, in all honesty, like, the two drugs I see that should be completely decriminalized and legal should be cocaine and weed. Whereas heroin should be closely monitored and regulated, and meth should be definitely very hardcore regulated and monitored.
Heroin is, I think, probably worse than meth. Heroin
is definitely more addictive than meth.
And it does. I think it probably does a lot more.
It does more psychologically than physically.
It's a lot more. It develops. It leads to more dependence, I think, than meth does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I think heroin's probably one of the worst.
And the scariest thing is that heroin comes from a natural plant.
Opium? Is it an opium base? That's what I thought.
Yeah. But that's the thing is that you have to ask yourself that alcohol and cigarettes are legal, and they're both. Alcohol is the most destructive substance known to man right now.
Crocodile.
Congratulations, it's more destructive,
I'm
but I'm
joking.
talking about proportionally how many people it kills.
Oh, well, yeah, because there's a lot more people using alcohol.
Exactly,
I mean,
yes.
That kind of goes against your legalization argument, doesn't it? Because it's legal. You almost said it, because it's legal.
Alcohol is destructive because of how prevalent it is in society. And in all honesty, there's more pushback against cigarette use than there is alcohol use. Alcohol use is pre-normalized and you're not seen as being a weirdo or being seen as an idiot for using alcohol.
Well, that's because if alcohol is going to affect you, it affects a certain percentage of the population based upon, I think, from what I understand, brain chemistry and like DNA and like what you... It's basically hereditary.
I've thrown hundreds of parties. The amount of people that tell me they won't smoke is much larger than the people that tell me they don't drink.
It's
Even
much more
though
socially
drinking
acceptable,
can be
yes.
just as bad as cigarettes.
But the problem is, in most situations, it's not as bad.
My thing is,
Cigarettes are overall addictive. There's a certain subset of society that alcohol
I can
really
tell you right
impacts.
now that I've been using cigarettes since I was 16. Regularly.
Mhm.
As in, like, 2-3 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
I have only started drinking heavily and regularly since I was 20, and I drank from 20 until I was 23, and I drink heavily and regularly. 19 to 22, actually. 23 kind of dropped off.
Okay, well, you know what?
Well, we'll finish this thought.
Yeah, go ahead. Then we'll cut
19
the
to
podcast off.
23, the starting point of 23, I drink very heavily. My body has been irreversibly damaged by alcohol use because of how I've used it during those years. My intestines aren't the same. My liver is not the same. I can't process food the same at all. And I'm constantly in stomach pain if I don't eat 100% correctly and healthy because of what alcohol has done to me. And I've used cigarettes longer and just as regularly, and cigarettes have not done nearly as much damage as alcohol has done to me. And that's the biggest thing, is that the problem is with substances is that the more education... I was never told when I was a kid that alcohol could do this to you. It could ruin your liver forever. I was always told what cigarettes and weed and meth could do to you.
Yeah.
It's about education. And that's the most important part, because when the populace is educated, that's when they're most able to make their own decisions.
And I agree, and leave it to the libertarian to turn this into a drug podcast. Okay, so Payne's got to go. We're going to cut it off there. I've been Brandon. Devin's gone.
Mitchell?
Pain.
And thank you for listening. We'll be here next week.